Live from Fargo and serving you on TV, online, and on the go. This is Valley News Live at 6.
No peace! No peace! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! You are paid to stop the people. Don't discriminate. You are paid to...
Marches and gatherings are happening all over the world, including here in Fargo, to protest the death of George Floyd. Valley News team's Courtney Lackey gives us a look at the scene downtown.
Thousands flooded the streets of downtown Fargo for George Floyd.
He's been having for too long. He's got to stop. He got to stop. We're here to voice our opinion. Let our voices be heard.
The whole world is listening now. I don't condone the violence because I don't want to see cities burned, but we have a movement now. We have power now that we haven't had in a long time.
So this matters. We're staying here. We're marching for solidarity. To show that our lives, my son's life, my husband, my brothers, my friends, their lives matter.
Protesters made the trek from City Hall to the police department. Organizers keeping it peaceful.
Why is it important to be here today?
For change, of course.
Yeah, obviously, everyone's important. I mean, look all these people out here. Change time.
People need to stand up and stand together. You know, it's great to see people of all backgrounds out here together. It's real emotional.
Why is this important?
It is, because all we ask for is equality. We just want what's equal to us. It's important for our youth. It's important for everybody out here. It's very important. The riot can stop if they do the right thing.
In Fargo, Courtney Lackey, Valley News Live.
Marches have continued through the metro into this evening, making stops at the West Fargo Police Department and continuing through different streets throughout Fargo. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney was at the protest earlier today alongside Moorhead Mayor Jonathan Judd. They were seen interacting and having discussions with the protesters. We caught up with Mahoney after the protest, and he explained that the peaceful nature of the protest was a sign of how well the FM community can come together to communicate in a stressful time.
Well, it was kind of interesting. We had a huge crowd. I did not expect that many people to show up, but they did. And then we were very concerned it might turn a little bit violent, but it stayed peaceful throughout. So I was very pleased with how the dialogue happened. We had great discussions. And then the group kind of said, okay, we've done enough here. We're going to go somewhere else. So it was good.
Across the nation today, thousands gathering together in different cities to protest. These are the scenes from cities like Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Tampa. Protests are expected to carry over into this evening. Minneapolis has been at the epicenter of protests after another night of violent protests, looting, and vandalism. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has fully mobilized the state's National Guard. One of the police officers involved in the death of George Floyd, Derek Chauvin, was arrested yesterday on third-degree murder charges. Michael George has the latest from Minneapolis.
Volunteers gathered in Minneapolis today to clean up after another night of fires and looting during a protest for George Floyd.
We're gonna have to work so hard and together, everyone, to clean this up. I mean, this is just, who knows, this is not even probably the end.
Protesters ignored an 8 p.m. curfew, setting buildings and cars on fire, prompting Governor Tim Walz to activate the state's full National Guard for the first time in Minnesota history.
Last night is a mockery of pretending this is about George Floyd's death.
As the National Guard rolled into Minneapolis, President Trump urged Minnesota officials to get tougher with protesters.
They've got to be tough. They've got to be smart. We have our military ready, willing, and able, if they ever want to call our military. But we can have troops in the ground very quickly.
Talking with people on this block, a lot of folks told us they support the protests, but seeing this destruction of their community breaks their heart.
Everything is gone. If it's not broken or burnt down, it's tagged with graffiti.
Anger over Floyd's death ignited protests in dozens of U.S. cities. Protesters in Atlanta set fires and smashed the windows of the CNN Center, set fire to police vehicles in New York, and police held back an angry mob at the White House. People poured into the streets again today from Philadelphia to Los Angeles.
I need to be out here. I feel like, it's time to take a stand. United we stand, divided we fall.
Officials across the country are bracing for another night of possible violence following a national call for protests. Michael George, CBS News, Minneapolis.
An 8 p.m. curfew is in place tonight for the Twin Cities. Leaders are asking the public to stay in tonight to avoid any more violent clashes. Well, Fargo police have asked the public to avoid downtown Fargo with some breaking news here as protesters have turned violent in downtown Fargo. The police department saying there are water bottles being thrown at cop cars. They have given an order for protesters to disperse. We will continue to monitor this situation. Continued to escalate over the last couple of hours. What started off as a peaceful protest this morning has now taken a violent turn here this evening, starting around 6 o'clock. We have reporters on the scene. We'll head out now live to Courtney, Lackey, who is downtown in downtown Fargo, bringing us the latest on this. Courtney, what are you seeing right now? What is happening there in downtown Fargo?
Avenue North, if you're familiar with the area, it's just outside of Cityscapes and Worst Beer Hall. I've been with this protest since about 9 o'clock, and it started off very peaceful, but around 6 o'clock when we moved downtown, things went south fast. Right when we got on scene, we had seen all of these officers blocking off the street. We heard loud bangs. Now, if you're hearing loud bangs down here, those are actually flash bangs. We want to let you know that. We also saw some pepper balls being shot at people as they started smashing some of the officers' cars. We saw video of that as well. Now, police have been pushing people out. They just deployed what they confirmed to us to be tear gas, and that has really cleared a lot of people out of the area. The block now is next to empty, but when we arrived, it was full. They've been pushing people back. And are continued to doing so. We still have a couple of spectators, a couple of people. One other thing that I did see was I haven't seen any brutality towards the police, but we did see some brutality, people to people. We did see one man who was beaten bloody and his windshield was bashed. So this protest did go south very fast, but we're going to send it back to you in the studio, Beth. For now, reporting live in downtown Fargo, Courtney Lackey, Valleynewslive.
Well, I want to ask, what's kind of the atmosphere like now as obviously things escalated and now they're being dispersed? Obviously, some people just walking there by you. Is it calm?
Here, Beth. A lot of people just walking around. Fearful, I would say, is the atmosphere right now.
All right. Well, thank you, Courtney, and thank you for bringing us that live report. Stay safe down there. For now, reporting live in downtown Fargo, that's Courtney Lackey. As again, we reiterate that this once peaceful protest did escalate this evening. Starting around 6 o'clock, Fargo police started encouraging people to stay away from downtown Fargo as things started to escalate. Now here in the 8 o'clock hour, they have released tear gas to try and disperse those crowds further, continuing to ask people to go home, stay away from downtown Fargo in order to keep this situation as peaceful as possible. We'll continue to bring you more coverage here on Valley News Live as well as valleynewslive.com and on our VNL News app with all of the latest. Stick with us and stay safe. We interrupt your programming again tonight to bring you breaking news out of downtown Fargo, where once peaceful protests have turned violent, resulting in police action to try and clear downtown Fargo. We have crews out on the scene, and we'll go now live to Katie Opperly, who is in downtown Fargo amongst the action. Katie, where are you and what are you seeing in this current moment?
Beth, I'm here off of 1st Avenue North and at the intersection of Robert Street. You can see that police are continuing to barricade this area. We have heard flashbangs and there have been sets off of tear gas in the area. This has dispersed a majority of the crowd on this side of where we're at. On the other side of this block, some crowds remain, which is where the majority of this gas is being set off. But at this time, we don't want to be in that area as we don't want to experience that gas. Tensions are extremely high at this time. Many people are spectating for the most part and not participating actively, but everyone can feel tension in the air. People are covering their mouths and faces as the gas is beginning to affect people. At this time, we haven't seen any aggression in this part of the streets. Like again, I said, we're at Robert Street and 1st Avenue North. We will continue to bring you any updates as they become available. For now, reporting live in downtown Fargo, Katie Opperly, Valley News Live.
Now, Katie, can you take me through getting on scene, what you were seeing at the time, and how different this scene is now that you're witnessing?
Absolutely, Beth. When we first arrived on scene, there was a crowd in the middle of this intersection area. Probably hundreds of people, police still standing guard as they do now. After a short moment of being here, we arrived on scene around 6 o'clock. Shortly after that time, they began pushing people back, and that's when they came to this intersection of Robert Street and 1st Avenue North. Around 8 o'clock is when those tear gas and flashbangs began going off. That was shortly after we saw some aggression within the crowd, and that's been the overall scene. It's just slowly progressed to more and more tense as the evening goes on.
All right, thank you so much, Katie. We appreciate that live report. We'll check back in with you here shortly. Stay safe out there as you continue to engage in this. Once again, what once was a peaceful protest has again turned violent there in downtown Fargo. We're going to go now live to another reporter in downtown Fargo. I believe we have Bailey Hurley here and now live waiting for us to come to her as she's in another area of that downtown Fargo scene. Bailey, where are you and what are you seeing?
Go. Beth, we're on Broadway and 1st Avenue right now, just a little bit past the Fort Max area. People are getting very close right here. You can see just over these cars, we're trying to stay back. Police are going to tear gas again soon. Just about 5 minutes ago, police deployed tear gas. People are getting incredibly close to police, and that's when police start tear gassing. You'll see sort of blue-gray smoke. There we go. That you can see it right now. They just tear gassed. They're throwing tear gas at protesters. Fargo police warned protesters, though, that they did not disperse. That smoke you're seeing right now, that's
It was peaceful. It was peaceful.
It's incredibly hard to breathe or see when this starts coming, so we're going to start leaving this area soon. This is unlike anything I've ever seen. Those are not gunshots. Those are flashbangs. And also the tear gas as it starts being deployed. This is, again, on 1st Avenue and Broadway right now. Fargo police are deploying tear gas onto protesters. We're going to walk a little bit away, Beth. This, again, it gets very potent very quick. We're going to get out of here, Beth, so I'm going to send it back to you in the studio right now in downtown Fargo. Bailey Hurley, Valley News Live.
All right, thank you so much, Bailey. As Bailey was reporting there, she is there on that section of 1st Avenue and Broadway, right there in downtown Fargo in the heart of things, where you can see that Fargo police were releasing tear gas. Again, any bangs you're hearing right now, if you're in that downtown Fargo area, Fargo police are releasing tear gas as well as some bangs to help disperse every bit of that crowd that they can, trying to keep us up to date on all of this latest here in downtown Fargo, where again, I will repeat, earlier today, protests gathered a huge crowd to march through downtown Fargo and the surrounding areas, taking it out to West Fargo. Things remaining peaceful and calm in that protest. Here around the 6 o'clock hour tonight, things escalated as violence started to take part, throwing things, as you could see in that video there as Bailey was reporting to us in downtown Fargo, as protesters threw things back towards the police that are there trying to protect the city. That for now is what we have from Bailey Hurley, as she said, was moving away from that tear gas and away from that violent scene. We're going to go now live back out to Katie Opperly, who is again still in downtown Fargo, there again a little bit removed from some of that violence. Katie, can you hear what's going on there where we just heard from Bailey on 1st and Broadway?
Yes, absolutely. We can hear sirens and we can actually see more tear gas being dispersed right now. That's why I have my mask once again covering my face. You can see police rushing into the scene. People are responding to this actively. I can't see what Bailey is experiencing on that side of this intersection, but we can see the gas rising into the air. We can hear crowds of people over there. And even on our side of the road, people are coughing and sneezing, covering their face from this burning tear gas. It is a very active scene. Even on this side, we can see different tear gases being deployed on that side, police actively working and moving around the crowds. It is a very active scene here, even in our line of sight. So we will continue to keep you updated, Beth. Reporting live in downtown Fargo, Katie Opperly, Valley News Live.
Now, Katie, can you put this in perspective for me? I have thankfully never experienced tear gas. Can you feel it from where you are right now?
I can. It just feels like a tightness almost in my chest. And maybe this isn't what everyone experiences, but I can feel a burning around my eyes and nose. And then I can also feel a bit of a tightness or a scratchiness in my throat and breathing like area in my chest.
Now, Katie, you are also standing there obviously around a large police presence there. What can you say to the demeanor of the officers there in the area you are and how they have been responding to all of this?
Officers are on guard is the best way to describe it. They are ready for anything. As you can see, they have their sticks at ready. They have weapons at the ready, but they are remaining calm. They are not interacting with the crowd, at least on our side, as things are more calm in our side, but they just are ready for anything. They're standing on guard.
And Katie, I see that they have the zip ties there, and you did mention that there was some violence between spectators and protesters, but not so much that you have witnessed between the cops, but they have those zip ties there on guard to obviously make arrests if they need to continue to protect the public.
Yes, we have heard that there have been arrests made. We haven't seen them ourselves, but what we did see was that a crowd did victimize one man earlier. He was beaten up, but there has not been any aggression towards police that we have witnessed, just only within the crowd.
Yes, Katie, it looks like Fargo police actually tweeted out, I'm going to read this to you so that I get it correctly. At 7:39 p.m., officers are extracting an individual from the north side of Fort Knox who was injured to provide them medical attention. They are not under arrest or being detained, but so a very fluid situation that the officers are dealing with there right now. Katie, as you saw that second swing there of tear gas go out, have you seen even more people fall back, retreat, and start to disperse from downtown? Is it taking effect?
Absolutely. On this side of where we are at, there used to be hundreds of people, and now there's only about a dozen where we are, and they're all very well dispersed. They're not grouped into one group as they were before. They're no longer actively acting towards anyone. They're not yelling. They're not holding up their signs anymore. The people that remain, there's only just a few that remain compared to the hundreds that we saw at 6 o'clock when we first got here.
All right. Thank you so much, Katie. We really appreciate these live reports. Stand by. I'm sure we'll be back to check in with you here soon. Right now, I want to take us back across town. We're going to check back in with Bailey Hurley, who has fallen back and retreated from that initial attack with the tear gas. Bailey, where are you now? How are things progressing?
Beth, I'm on 2nd Avenue North and Broadway right now. You can see this is mass chaos behind me. Michael, I want you to see, Beth, the smoke you're seeing right now, it's very close to us, so we're going to have to get out of here soon. That is tear gas being deployed right now in downtown Fargo. Beth, I have to tell you, I've already had a lot of intake of this right now. It gets in your throat and it burns. It burns so bad. I'm so sorry for those of you watching at home. There's expletives, there's a lot of chaos going on right now. What you see right now, people are trying to block the streets off. I'm not sure. They try to do that a little bit further down. This is mass chaos. I've never seen anything like this.
You should have a mask. This is terrible.
Again, what you're seeing right now is tear gas being deployed on protesters who have now turned violent. Police said that some of their officers had their lives threatened. People were crowding around Fargo police cars, threatening their lives, having bricks thrown through their squad cars, having water bottles thrown at them. We've seen multiple projectiles. Oh my goodness. Oh, Beth, I'm so sorry. Oh, Beth, I'm so sorry. It gets right in your throat, and I've never. Beth, I'm going to send it right back to you
breath,
so
Bailey.
I can have a second to get my, get my everything back together. I'm going to send it right back to you. We'll check back in with you soon in downtown.
A perfect representation there of what people in downtown Fargo are still going through as they continue to take those waves of tear gas. You can see the crowd there with our shot as Michael is still up and rolling there. You can see the crowd starting to disperse. That tear gas, obviously an effective tool here as you saw them start to retreat. Again, moving back from that First Avenue and continuing to move back throughout downtown Fargo, down Broadway, as crews continue to try and disperse this crowd, trying to get everybody to go home so that this can remain as peaceful as possible. Obviously, things have escalated. Officers have been attacked and fellow protesters have been attacked throughout this, but again, a fluid scene as we work through downtown Fargo here. Still rolling here in downtown as you start to see people coming down. That's passing the VFW there as you continue to move towards the federal courthouse in downtown Fargo. I want to remind you that today started with a peaceful protest that extended throughout Fargo into West Fargo as people marched in remembrance of George Floyd and trying to honor the Black Lives Matter movement as people pass through this town, chanting, showing signs of support, a great showing of peaceful protest. The Fargo police standing in spot with them, raising hands. Mayor Mahoney, Mayor Judd, as well from Moorhead, standing up to support people. It looks like we're going to go back out to Bailey now. Bailey, it looks like you've kind of got your wits about you again after that wave of tear gas. How are you doing?
Yeah, Beth, I have caught my breath. It's in the back of my throat. I really can't experience it. It's like a photographer's having a tough time. We're going to keep moving, but what you're going to see on the sidewalk here is a lot of people are throwing up. People are putting water bottles into their eyes. It feels like you put, oh my goodness. People are having a really tough time. I haven't gotten that close to it. I'm trying to stay away as much as possible. People are crying. People are throwing water bottles into their eyes. They're throwing up on the side of the road and on the sidewalks. If we can pan right over there. So right now we're on 2nd Avenue, just a little bit off of Broadway. That's where most of the police presence is right now on 1st Ave. And earlier, police were descending on Roberts Alley, as that's where a lot of protesters were beginning to congregate. Then earlier you just saw us almost, well, we all did get tear gas just on Broadway and 1st Ave. That area is now clear. I'm not really sure where people are congregating now. We'll catch up with some other protesters, but this is unlike anything I've ever seen, Beth. The tear gas, it stays on your face for quite a long time. I feel very hot and tingly. Our photographer is having a hard time seeing right now. A lot of tears, a lot of hard to breathe. A lot of people are pouring water in their eyes right now. Again, Fargo police did this all they gave people a fair warning that they were going to do this to disperse the crowds, to disperse the protesters. There has been a lot of violence that has broken out here. It started as a peaceful protest earlier this morning, and that is not how it is anymore.
Now, Bailey,
Beth, we'll check back in with you later. We'll see what other things we can find with Fargo police and the rest of the law enforcement groups that are out here right now. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Well, Bailey, I want to check in with you, if you can here, for a couple more minutes, just about the violence you have personally witnessed, what you've heard from Fargo police as you've been in contact with them here throughout these last couple of hours when things escalated.
Yeah, Beth, we've seen quite a bit of violence. We've heard a lot about it from police, but we've witnessed it firsthand over on the 1st Avenue and Broadway corridor right before tear gassing really started happening. There's obviously a very large police presence, kind of forming a wall, if you will, and people are throwing things at them. You see police ducking, you see them putting their shields up for cover because they don't really know what's coming at them. We've heard that bricks have been thrown at police. I've personally seen what seems to be frozen water bottles being thrown at Fargo police officers. At this point, it's every law enforcement.
All right, it looks like we've lost Bailey there. We're going to head over to Courtney Lackey now for another perspective on this live coverage. Again, Bailey Hurley there in the heart of things as tear gas was dispersed on protesters that turned into a violent protest here in downtown Fargo. Courtney Lackey kicking off our coverage tonight with our first live report in downtown Fargo. She's been with this protest all day as she started her day out there and witnessed the peaceful side of things. Courtney, are you with us now? And what are you seeing now as things again continue to disperse there? Are you seeing what Bailey saw in that disbursement? It looks like Courtney can't quite hear us yet. We'll wait to see if she can get our signal and catch up with us. It looks like she's certainly in a much calmer area of town right there in downtown Fargo. Again, this all kicked off, started to escalate around that 6 o'clock hour when protesters started to escalate things, receiving reports from Fargo police encouraging people to stay away from downtown Fargo, to start to step away from that protest as, again, things started to escalate with violence. Around 7 o'clock, they sent out an order asking people to their second order for disbursement, encouraging people to leave the area, acknowledging the fact that they would start to escalate themselves as taking action with the tear gas, barricading away downtown Fargo in order to protect our town, as well as the Fargo Police Department, as again reports continue to come in of things like bricks, frozen water bottles, water bottles in general being thrown at police officers, and again more violence between protesters, protester on protester violence as well. A part of the action tonight, no answers yet on what caused the escalation of this or how things started to turn. But again, Fargo police saying around that 6 o'clock hour that things did start to spike up here in downtown Fargo on that protest to honor George Floyd after he was killed at the hands of a police officer in Minneapolis. On Monday evening earlier this week. It's been a week riddled with protests and riots throughout, obviously, Minneapolis and across the country now, as Fargo now joins the ever-growing list of cities with protests and violent protests here in this action. I want to see if we can get back out to Courtney Lackey now in downtown Fargo. Courtney, can you hear me now? What are you witnessing at this point?
A lot of tear gas. Be careful. Yeah, we just had to move about a block down from the area over here on Robert Street, right next to the fire station, because the tear gas was so bad. If you actually look at my face right now, you can probably see a little bit. I still have some of that milk of magnesium. There was a group of guys just up the street a little bit that are spraying it into people's mouths and faces as they walk by, because this wind is really starting to move that tear gas. So if you're in the downtown area at all, stay inside. Avoid the area, Robert Street, 1st Avenue North, over by the fire station. Things are getting bad. That tear gas is starting to spread because of the wind. Live in downtown Fargo, Courtney Lackey, Valley News Live.
All right, thank you so much, Courtney. Appreciate you keeping us covered out there in downtown Fargo with everything that is happening as things continue to progress throughout this evening. For right now, we're going to toss it to a break here and recuperate. And okay, I'm not going to take a break. We're going to go back out to Bailey here, it sounds like, as she will join us again with a little bit more. Bailey, how are things happening here? Is that tear gas starting to disperse at all, or is it still sitting there on the lungs and continuing to wreak havoc?
Beth, I feel much better than when I checked in with you just a few minutes ago. It seems very calm right now. You're not hearing much from any protesters along the way. You're seeing some officers right in front of us. We're not going to get too close. We don't want them to think that anything is going to happen with us, but it seems very calm right now. I'm not really sure. We've kind of looked up and down the blocks. We're not really sure where the rest of the protesters have gathered. It seems that they find one area and congregate there until they get tear gassed out of there, and then they move on. So we haven't really found them yet, but it's eerily calm right now, calm before the storm, if you will. The tear gas is, we haven't heard any more booms of flashbangs or any more tear gas being deployed. Again, very eerily calm, not really sure what to make of it. We're going to go to see where the rest of these protesters are congregating, so I'm going to toss it back to you. We'll check back in with you soon, Beth.
All right, thank you so much, Bailey. We appreciate that. We now welcome in Mike Morkin to the set. Mike, joining the coverage here as, again, Fargo police talking about an escalated situation in downtown Fargo after protests this morning. Obviously took an elevated stance here late tonight.
Well, it's not like I haven't been following what's been going on. This has been a developing story throughout the day. I've bumped into the masses a couple of times as they were over near the West Acres Mall earlier this afternoon. They made their way all the way over to the West Fargo Police Department. I was in that area as well, just going about business, but it just goes to show you how widespread this whole thing has developed throughout the day. And then we get to this situation, which I guess you could just about describe as being just absolutely nuts out there. And what we've been doing now is watching feeds not only here on Valleynewslive, but also on some of my son's friends who are down there, having apartments up on the second floor around there, and watching as the crowd and the police, the agitation going on. Suddenly we saw the disbursement of the gas in that area, and we're slowly seeing maybe a push on the officers' part to get that situation down there. But as Bailey Hurley was standing there, I just kept thinking to myself, I have been in downtown Fargo walking that same street, going to areas like Vinyl Giant or some of the favorite restaurants and bars, and it's just amazing what's going on down there right now. We saw it develop in the Twin Cities. We didn't want it to get any worse there, and lo and behold, we had what we thought was going to be a statement made by those, and they had every right to make that statement. But now this has gotten and developed worse.
Well, and I was scrolling back through the timeline here of events. This started about 10 hours ago when this protest started, as they were peaceful, making their way through downtown Fargo. Had a beautiful moment out in front of the Fargo police station where Fargo officers and protesters were hand in hand, literally hand in hand, holding signs and sharing this moment of freedom of free speech. Chief Todd has repeatedly spoken about the right for everybody to have this moment and to speak their piece and to protest peacefully, making their way over to the West Fargo Police Department, as you mentioned, moving past Target. As they made their way down 13th, the Fargo police protecting them through a lot of these different streets that I don't think necessarily were prepared for the hordes of people that made their way through. And so then to see it make its way back now, nearly 10 hours later, and to escalate to this state.
The comments that we've been making as we've been following what's gone on through the day is these folks have to be tired.
And hungry.
It has been a very warm day on the asphalt. They've made their way in what has to have been a monstrous journey. And the same goes for everyone else involved, including the law enforcement that are there. So now is not the time to push the button any further, to try and get somebody's goat even more so. And I think the biggest concern that I have personally is what happens and what will happen when the sun goes down. And I'm hoping that these folks have made their statement. They came here, they did so, and now before anything gets absolutely bonkers and somebody gets hurt or property gets damaged, I hope and pray that cooler heads prevail.
And, we've had the example laid out for us of the worst case scenario of what can happen as we've witnessed, our sisters and brothers down in Minneapolis. And as this has continued to spread across the country, that I'm with you, Mike, in that we hope that this is the statement, that you made your statement and you feel like you've been heard, and that this can start to de-escalate and let everybody go home, because not only are those protesters absolutely have to be tired at this point, but those police officers as well that have been standing on guard for so long.
All right, let's go to Courtney Lackey. She joins us now. Our live coverage continues from downtown Fargo. Courtney?
Mike, we just were able to move back up a block. A lot of that tear gas has died down. We're breathing okay, and it is very quiet in the area compared to, just even the last 15 minutes. I think that last round of tear gas really pushed everyone out. We've seen a couple of people still on the blocks, but for the most part, it looks like just law enforcement down here. So very quiet scene. Hoping it stays that way for the rest of the night, but we'll keep you posted on if anything changes and what you guys can expect for now, I'm going to throw it back to you, Mike.
Courtney, tell us a little bit about where this push has gone. The line that was set up, I believe, was on First Avenue and Broadway, in that area right about the entrance to the Avalon. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mike. So when we first got here, the whole block right here of Robert Street North, and this is on First Avenue North, and it was just packed. And we made our way right down to the middle, and that's when police really started pushing us back. They pushed us all the way to the intersection of Robert Street and First Avenue North. And then that is when they started pushing everybody even further north down Robert Street. And it's pretty much been cleared out on our end. Can't tell you what the end of Broadway and First Avenue North looks like for right now.
All right, Courtney Lackey reporting live from downtown Fargo. Thank you so much. Let's go to Bailey Hurley now, and maybe we can get more to that answer about how things are going right now. Bailey, where are you at, and what can you tell us?
Mike, I'm so sorry. We're dealing with a little bit of some violent protesters in regards to the media right now, but I want you to look over here. More tear gas. You'll hear some booms as this goes on. I put my mask on. I can't deal with any more of this tear gas. Mike, you were saying earlier, yes, we've all been down these streets of downtown. Truly, Mike, this does not feel like the downtown that all of us know and love and have supported. This is unlike anything I've ever experienced. You can see, you'll see this tear gas that's happening right now. We're on First Ave and Broadway right now. Michael, can you close in on the large police presence that's just off Broadway right now? Very, very large police presence. There's people walking up and down the sidewalks right now with milk jugs for people who get tear gassed in their eyes, in their throats. There's also people, just a little bit ago, Michael, can you zoom in on this trash can over here to our left? That's where people are trapping the tear gas as it gets deployed on protesters so it doesn't disperse more on protesters. Other times people are, oh, there's some milk jugs you can see right now. People are literally going up and down, making sure that anybody who gets tear gassed will have that to ease the pain. People are kicking the tear gas canisters as they come, as they are deployed on protesters, back at officers. So officers, they have gas masks on, the whole 9 yards right now, but they're also getting tear gas kicked right back at them. People are getting closer. Once people get closer to officers, that's when tear gas starts getting deployed. You just saw somebody's throwing water bottles right now. Officers are ducking. They put their shields up above them. Tear gas is going to be deployed again almost in just a few seconds. We heard the Hodo has quite a few smashed windows right now. See, Mike, people are just continue to throw. Multiple shields are being hit right now. This is when officers deployed tear gas. People are throwing things. They're throwing milk cartons, they're throwing water bottles, they're throwing whatever they can find here on the streets. There's deodorant bottles here on the sidewalk right now. I've seen those thrown at officers. And that's when tear gas starts being deployed. You can just hear the anger.
Why don't you catch your breath? We'll just keep this live shot up. If we can do that, Beth, you and I, the things that come to mind when I see what's happening right now is the attempt on the part of authorities to maybe disperse this group with the tear gas has helped, but hasn't gotten the job done. So the question I have is, what are they going to do next?
When do they start escalating into making arrests, moving in, and taking some of these people out of the picture in terms of arresting them and removing them from the scene? Because I agree with you, Mike. You know, this is a location that Bailey was in for our coverage here not too long ago. She was on this First and Broadway corner. The tear gas happened, and you saw the mass crowds back up. She moved her way around the corner on Second, and now the crowds are back there on First. So kind of, yeah, it retreats everybody, and then they're coming right back in. So as Fargo police start to kind of have to weigh their options on what they're going to do to permanently disperse this situation.
I guess the ominous thing that I keep running through my head just watching that is that these folks are schooled. They know what they're doing. The fact that they're dealing or know how to deal with the tear gas canisters, the fact that they have milk jugs with water, yes, they know how to counter what's coming their way. And the only thing I can think of is that means they're not going away either.
Yeah, they're prepared for it. And again, we've had that blueprint for better or worse from different parts of the country where they know to have milk on hand. They know what to be able to do in order of, I would never think to throw a tear gas canister back at somebody. So to be able to, they kind of have this blueprint of their plan of attack, how to stay engaged and continue to engage with the police in this scene here. As what a, again, better or worse sight to see the police like that here in downtown Fargo.
Well, the line is formed. The officers are there. They're protecting themselves. There are some folks that are there, bystanders, if you will, watching this scene as we are showing the scene to you as well. And then you have the protesters as well. I'm wondering if and when that line of officers will be moving forward or how they're going to deal with it.
Well, and when we can talk to Bailey again, you know, I know she's been in contact with the Fargo police throughout yesterday and today in terms of their preparation. And I know she's spoken about the fact that there is a great deal of police presence prepared for this situation in terms of the number of officers that are on call, no vacation allowed this weekend as they were prepared for this. And I keep thinking back to early on in this protest when the Fargo police were wearing this same gear that they're wearing right now, that you see them there with their shields. And people were wondering, why are you wearing that? Why are you prepared? And social media started reaching out, questioning, and it was because of an incident like this. Well, they hoped it wouldn't get here. They were prepared for it all along.
I have no expertise at all in how you deal with a crowd like this, but I'm wondering if the strategy in some way isn't to get to whittle the crowd down to enough where the authorities then can move in and possibly make arrests and bring this in. Try to chip away, if you will, get enough people to say, okay, we're done. This is not what we want to do. Our statement is made. I'm going home. These folks are here. They're going to stick it out and probably wind up in the Cass County Jail tonight.
You would think so. And, you know, I mentioned it earlier, but Chief Todd has mentioned multiple times throughout this week in preparation for this protest, and again today, even in the last hour or so here now, as I double check the time on that, in the terms of respecting people's right to free speech and that these people have a right to gather out here. But ultimately, when you start escalating it into a violent situation, throwing things at police officers, at other people in the street, and really wreaking havoc on a downtown like this, there becomes a point where there's a point of no return and you will see yourself handcuffed and in jail.
The irony is that they had so many bodies out there earlier today. When I listened to the tape or listened to the feeds on our app and all that stuff, the crowd, the sounds, the roar of the message that they were giving, it was powerful. You felt like, goodness, this is a voice, and this is an incredible voice. Now we're whittled down to what could be a dozen, 2 dozen, maybe 3 dozen, you know, of the really folks that are here, maybe not so much worried about a message, but worried about stirring it up.
Well, and you've certainly seen that as we've worked from crew to crew throughout our downtown coverage, where Courtney and Katie were located down around just north of NP there, a block off of Broadway. They saw a much more peaceful situation, people taking in the scene but not participating in it, and then that very different atmosphere there directly on Broadway. But again, like you said, Mike, that crowd has really started to disperse and leaving just kind of a few people there.
And what you're seeing to the right, on the right side of the screen is, and I'm getting the messages coming across, is that what we're doing is redeploying our troops in hopes of getting to a better location, maybe even a safer location. So the word I'm getting through this is that we're moving to a second location. It'll be just a couple of seconds before we can go back to Bailey Hurley and get the latest on what's happening. But as you can see, they're heading down an alleyway right now.
Looks like the alley behind maybe Reuters there, is that?
I believe if we come out on the other side of it, you'll make the turn there. There is a store, Serenity is there. If you follow your way down the block, you're going to wind up at Orange Records. So that's where I think we're at right now. I think if we turn to the left there, you're probably going to be back to the Avalon and the entrance there, which is kind of where all of this
you can see the broken windows. Sorry, I know I'm pointing. You can see the broken windows there at the end of the dining room of the Hodo. It looks like that's Vinyl Taco that has its front window smashed. this destruction. Let's
All
go.
right.
Let's go back out to Bailey Hurley now.
I want you to.
Okay.
Bailey?
I want you to look at these windows. This is the back of the Hodo. This is the back of the Hodo. All of these are smashed. There's graffiti on the wall, not. And then if you come to this way, we have active fires here on First Avenue. You can see Vinyl Taco. The looting has started. The violence on businesses has started. People are inside JL Beers right now. They just threw a large dumpster full of something at that car right there. Again, Vinyl Taco's windows are completely shattered. People are going in and out of JL Beers. There's an active fire here on the streets of First Avenue. Michael, if we could pan right over there, this is how close we are to the police presence right now. This is where a lot of oh my goodness, look at this chair through the window. Can we get a little bit closer, Michael?
Bailey, can you hear me?
Mike, Beth, I can hear you.
Okay, and Bailey, what I'd like to do if we could is that, despite that, I'd like to go back and get the looters on TV. Because I think what we ask the public right now to do is simply, if you notice anybody that you recognize them as they're coming out of whatever store or restaurant they are, call authorities right now, let authorities know who those folks are. That's not acceptable.
Absolutely.
So Michael, can you move over there? We're seeing some folks that think
continue to zoom in there, Michael.
they think they're pulling a fast
Can you
one.
zoom in, Michael, on the fire?
On the people as well here.
They're trying to put the fire out right now.
How about behind the fire, Bailey, as we look at the people coming in and out of JL Beers? Obviously,
there's no people coming in and out of JL Beers right now or Vinyl Taco.
Okay.
That was just a few moments ago. There are a lot of people I can see.
All right, if let's just be certain that if it happens again and we catch somebody moving in and out of a restaurant that shouldn't be there, obviously are looting, let's get them on the air. Let's try to splash their face all over. And as I said, I ask the public, if you know somebody, make sure you call authorities and tell them that's who that guy was or whoever it was. That's ridiculous.
just so devastating to see that happening. All that shattered glass. A wonderful strip there of businesses locally owned. So to see that happening, I mean, the devastation there as we zoom in on the glass at Vinyl Taco, a shop full of, records and all kinds of, local artwork, to see what could happen to it. Nice to see those citizens putting out the fire with that sandbag there to step in the right direction.
We want to welcome you here on the Fargo CW. Normally we would be tuning in for our Saturday night newscast at 9. The newscast for tonight is live coverage of what's happening right now in downtown Fargo, what's been going on for the last several hours. And you want to take it back, as you said, 10 hours ago when this peaceful protest started downtown. Oddly enough, it started downtown, worked its way over to the Fargo police station, then made its way down and worked its way over to the mall, then made their way over to the West Fargo Police Department, then made their way back downtown, and here we are with now rioting going on. What we've got is
And this isn't speculation, this is looting. You look at people with open beverages that they obviously sell at JL Beers, that they're walking out of the establishment with, those chairs, all very clearly, items that belong to that business that have now been thrown throughout downtown, as well as into other businesses such as the Hodo across that street. The dumpster there flipped over. To see the looting start to escalate is...
Forgive me for sounding so disgusted. I applaud and I agree that everyone has a right to free speech. Don't get me wrong. But when it gets to this point, when we take our step forward and start to watch this, we had a big discussion in the newsroom about protesting and rioting. Protesters aren't rioters, rioters aren't protesters, and we're suddenly starting to see the latter start to rear its ugly head in our downtown streets, and it's not a pleasant sight.
And what you're seeing right now is if you recognize somebody on TV, it's strength in numbers and banding together. So if you see somebody that you know, call them and tell them to go home. This isn't a time to be taking in the sights downtown either. For your safety, for your loved one's safety, get home. Watch it on TV if that's what you want to continue to do. We invite you to put this on TV and to stay informed, but tell your loved ones to come home. Disperse that area. Make the job a little bit easier for those that are trying to protect our city, because we've seen the photos, we've seen the video of what can happen if this doesn't de-escalate before it goes dark.
And we don't know what the plans of the Fargo police authorities are, and whether they're going to try and disperse this as peacefully as possible, or where they're going to put a sudden stop to this and move what is almost a squadron, a detachment, an army of authorities, and they're all set right now to try and protect themselves, but they may move swiftly before the sun goes down and try to bring an end to this.
Yeah.
This is something that started early today with a peaceful protest downtown Fargo. There were speeches given. City Commissioner John Strand was one of those that gave a speech. And the messages, you've seen the posts on Facebook. The Fargo Police Chief Todd holding up a sign. There were everything showing that there was support for the cause of what this group was all about, and it was a good thing. Even the police chief indicated in a message that he pasted on Facebook that despite some of the earlier difficulties with traffic, they allowed the group, to move about and make their way around, and things went relatively smooth until all of a sudden we saw this group line up. Authorities lined themselves up, drew the line in the sand downtown, and now we're starting to see trouble going on. So we're waiting for our news crews to get in place. I think we've got Courtney, Lackey. Courtney, you're making your way downtown. Where are you, and what can you see?
Yep, Mike, we're right outside of, you got Subway, Reuters, the Hodo, if you're familiar. We just moved a block down. We're on the corner of Broadway and First Avenue North. There are a lot more people here. We've been hearing a lot of chanting and protesting still going on. And we are still hearing warnings that they're going to fire off more tear gas if people do not clear out of this area. We've got a lot of people on bicycles riding around freely. We've seen a lot of people, like you said, carrying those jugs of milk. What you just heard, you might have heard some of that banging. Pepper balls are still being deployed, still being shot at people down here. So this side of the street, things are a lot more out of control than the other side. People are still, yep, there goes the second round of tear gas. It looks like you can see people are slowly starting to back off. There goes another one. People are starting to clear out, Mike. I think we are gonna back up as well.
Certainly, Courtney, stay safe and back up to stay safe and still give that perspective. Doing an outstanding job reporting out there. We're now looking at our other crew's camera where that tear gas is flying out. Bailey Hurley, if you can hear us, we're on your camera right now as that tear gas is being deployed there in front of Vinyl Taco, where those crowds were looting JL beers in Vinyl Taco. And it looks like it's certainly being effective in that next wave of dispersing people, Bailey.
It's effective, but only for so long, Beth. People will come back now. They go running when the tear gas starts getting deployed, and they come right back to where it was. You saw video a little bit ago. People went into JL beers. Almost all of the windows are smashed. People came out with buckets of JL beer and other sorts of soft liquor, and just started passing it out, which, Beth, truly makes me scared. If people are going to be drinking and doing this, that is not a mixture that I think should be happening right now.
Again, we apologize
Michael,
for any
audio
that is picked up here in this aggressive situation that continues to escalate in downtown Fargo. Our apologies as Bailey continues to bring you coverage from this live and aggressive scene here, as you just see The remnants of JL beers and vinyl taco there spread throughout the street. A young woman trying to pick it up right now to try and rectify this situation that continues to unravel here in downtown Fargo.
Bailey, this is Mike again. The people that are standing there right now that are watching, were they part of the group? Are you familiar with some of the, obviously a lot of folks are wearing masks right now, so it's hard to see, but are these some of the folks that were a part of the larger group earlier? Or are they simply just bystanders? And if they are, I'd be curious to know what their reaction is to what they're seeing.
Mike, I was a part of this morning's march. I went with everybody through everywhere. And this is not the group that I was with this morning. This is not the group that I covered this morning. This is much different. Lots of people are telling us, we've talked with a few people on the sidewalk, a lot of people are telling us that this is organized. Michael, if you can come with me here. A lot of people are telling us that this is organized, what the looting that's happening, the fires that are happening, the kicking back of the tear gas at officers, that's organized. Lots of people here are bystanders. They can't believe what they're seeing, but they don't want to be at home, which Mike, I have to say, I think is part of the problem. As this goes on, we're encountering more and more violent people, whether it's with the media, whether it's with police. This is turning darker as the minutes turn. You can see more people. The Red River Women's Clinic, I have a feeling that their windows are next. The JL Beers, they have essentially 0 windows left. People keep going into that bottom one. Vinyl Taco has also been being looted.
Bailey, we're going to interrupt you here for a breaking release here from the Fargo Police Department. I'm going to read this to you to make sure that I get this all correct for you. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney has declared a state of emergency in Fargo to protect the safety of our residents, personnel, infrastructure, and property in light of the escalating situation in downtown Fargo. Protesters began attacking our Fargo Police Department officers and private property, in addition to setting fires and throwing projectiles. So again, Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney now has declared a state of emergency in Fargo. Mayor Mahoney was a part of this protest this morning, out there for peaceful protesting. We talked to him ahead of our 6 o'clock newscast tonight, and he said how pleased he was to see it all go down so peacefully, and now having to issue a state of emergency for the city of Fargo.
It's interesting when you talked about the timetable, and you mentioned 6 o'clock earlier today. I have a neighbor who has a relative who is with the police department, and she had indicated to me that he had been placed on call, and I had said, well, sounded like things were going well. And that wasn't the case. We had started to see everything go in a different direction.
Well, and Bailey, throughout this week, as things started to come into plan for this protest, you were in communication with the Fargo Police Department, and they were prepared with backup. Can you speak to the Fargo Police Department and kind of their plan and preparation for today, and the obviously hoping against this current situation?
Yeah, Beth, I've been in contact with almost every law enforcement agency in this area. They've been prepared kind of since Thursday night now. Friday, yesterday, they really started getting prepared for the what ifs. They didn't want any of this to happen, but they were prepared for the what ifs. I've been told that every single officer with the Fargo Police Department is here. They're on scene, or they're at the police department headquarters giving orders, trying to help the situation. West Fargo is here. All of their officers are also on the scene or in some way part of this. Cass County as well, Clay County as well. I mean, there are a lot of officers, but Beth, to hear you just say that Mayor Mahoney has issued a state of emergency, oh my goodness, windows are being broken out right now in front of us. But Beth, to hear you say that a state of emergency has been issued, that doesn't, I have a strong feeling that things are going to get worse as the night progresses. I don't think there are enough law enforcement officers in this area to contain what's happening here right now. When I was speaking with all of my law enforcement contacts throughout the week, it was kind of it'll stay in Minneapolis thing. It'll stay in the larger cities. That's obviously, Beth, that is not the case. It is here. They've been being prepared, but I don't think anybody ever thought this would happen in Fargo, North Dakota. Lots of people, I kind of spoke to this a few minutes ago, but lots of people are saying this is organized. People are here from out of state. And again, people, if you're listening at home, I sincerely apologize for the things that you're going to hear. This is obviously a very aggressive, very violent scene here. People have a lot of different explicit words that they're sharing, so I apologize for what you hear in the background. You can see there's people throwing some things. Again, Beth, this is beyond anything that any police department has been prepared for. I have a question for you in return now, since things are coming faster to you than they are to me. Do you know if the National Guard is going to be deployed to this area anytime soon?
I do not have that at this moment. I'll continue to look into that. Absolutely, Bailey. You would have to assume, seeing the trail of events as things have progressed in Minneapolis and in other cities, that they would probably have had that crew on standby, the National Guard, North Dakota National Guard. We'll certainly look into that and try and bring you the latest. Again, if you're just joining us, wanting to let you know, Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney has declared a state of emergency in Fargo, given the scene that you're witnessing right now. And Bailey, as you said it, that tear gas works for so long. The crowd backing up, and now it's almost like we're seeing more people than before that latest swing of tear gas.
All right, Bailey, hold on. Let's go to Courtney Lackey. Courtney, what can you tell us?
Yeah, we got another reporter up there.
Courtney?
Oh, we're live.
Courtney, what can you tell us?
Mike's talking to you. Yeah, Mike. We're just walking down Broadway here. There was just more tear gas deployed down here right in front of the Fort Knox patio. We're rounding the corner here. I want to show you this. Come with me. Out here. Just absolutely trash outside of Jail Beers and Minel Taco. It is not getting better. People standing on. Things are starting to get very heated out here. The whole crowd has moved out this way.
Courtney, can you tell us what those people are saying? Are they trying to encourage people to disperse?
Yeah, Mike, Andrea, we're going to go ahead. Things are getting a little crazy by us with the camera. People are saying here, you know, I've been talking to a lot of people. They say they were a part of this protest in the morning, but they are not a part of the protest that is taking place now. They just want to be out here and help people. A lot of people are here to help people.
Make our voices heard. That's what we want. We don't want violence.
The tear gas is starting to come up again. You can see the hands are up. The tear gas is getting really bad again.
Well, Courtney, we obviously want you to stay safe, so don't hesitate to back up there. Another one of our reporters out trying to assist Courtney, Katie, and Bailey, and Sasha, the rest of our crew. Joshua Peguero reporting to us that he had a rock thrown at him as he's trying to help out our reporters there on the scene. So encouraging you all to stay safe out there. Don't hesitate to back up as you step away from all of that action.
It would appear to me at this point, and I'm just trying to go judge by what we've been able to present to you, that maybe the group has been broken up into maybe smaller groups, and I don't know if that's the strategy that's being used, or maybe that's their way of spreading out and allowing things. I'm not quite sure how this is all playing out right now, but as you can see, here's one of the protesters. He is marching.
We can take this video, please.
Toward police,
there we go.
And let's see how this is handled. Obviously, communication between the two. Very, very tense situation. Let's see. Okay, now one of the other folks trying to tell the other group members to stay back, so maybe that individual is in fact trying to communicate to authorities, maybe trying to say, hey, listen, maybe that we can somehow bring this to an end tonight without any more trouble.
You don't know me. What's your hate for?
Again, what we're at is like First Avenue and Broadway right now. As I said, those folks obviously keeping some of their fellow group back. You can see that one of the gentlemen is having an exchange with someone else in the downtown area. If you're just joining us, you are watching us on the Fargo CW at 9. This is continuing coverage on Valley News Live of what's been a long, long day in downtown Fargo, spread out throughout various places as protesters, marchers took their message through the streets today. Okay, so we're being told by our management that we're going to drop down the audio a little bit because of the profanity that is being used, interaction between the two groups, the two sides there. Our cameras making their way around. As I was indicating to you, this was something that started out peacefully downtown. The crowd estimated anywhere was, what, 2,000-3,000 people, maybe
I'm never good at those numbers.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
it was
thousands of folks.
Turnout.
And they took off after the formal presentation, the message that they wanted to get out, and then they went on a march that took them down 25th. They made their way over to the mall, walking along 13th Avenue, and there looks like we've got a fire started, or they're trying to put out a fire. No, it looks like they're trying to start a fire.
I do want to speak to, again, if you're just joining us, that we are in a state of emergency here in Fargo declared by Mayor Tim Mahoney. I do want to talk about some of those finer points of a state of emergency and what that means. That, of course, means that Dr. Mahoney has the authority to shut down any part of the city right now, which you would see that they're attempting to shut down this area downtown here outside of Vinyl Taco on that First Avenue and Broadway area. But the authority to shut down any portion of the city, prohibit or limit the movement of persons or hours of operation that they're able to be out and about. That would be kind of that curfew that we've now seen Minneapolis go into, that 8 p.m. curfew in Minneapolis. He would have the authority to put that into place now. They're able to halt access or exit upon public highways, meaning closing down streets and areas of town. And a big one here, there's several different portions of this, but every person remaining present at the place of any riot or unlawful assembly after the order has been given would obviously be able to be arrested, and you would be violating an executive order here as it's a state of emergency in the city of Fargo. So everybody on scene right now is basically violating that city ordinance, that state of emergency.
And the fire that was started and is continuing to be fueled by some of the rioters in downtown Fargo right now won't go well in trying to calm the waters. And again, we're trying to figure out what that individual was doing with the backpack as he addressed the wall of police officers, communicating with them and hopefully trying to reason with them, or at least get his message across as to where they're going to go. But this looks like they're just making matters worse in that downtown area.
And you can kind of see, as our crews have moved throughout town, how maybe the police have tried to structure and disperse the crowd and kind of push them maybe to a certain place, because you're seeing, well, now you're seeing folks running away from that Vinyl Taco scene here. Do we have one of our crews that can tell us what kind of started? Bailey Hurley, I see you there. Can you hear me? I see you clutching your chest there. Did something happen that you can tell us?
Bailey's having trouble with IFB.
Everybody start.
We got Jordan live on Valley.
Nope,
Bailey, go ahead.
Can you guys hear me okay?
We hear you.
Okay. Okay. Large boom just happened and everybody started running. I don't really know what happened. There's no tear gas that's in the air right now. Let's move this way a little bit, Michael. There's a large fire, if you can see, that's being started right now. I just got done talking with some of the people on the streets here, and they say that they've talked with many of the people here, and I've talked with a few as well. They're here from Phoenix, they're here from Minneapolis, they're here from Montana, they're here from South Dakota, solely because we are on I-94. People have thought that, oh, what you just heard, Mike and Beth, oh man.
The people running right now is because tear gas was just deployed. You can see it, and they're throwing it back at officers. That smoke that you just saw in the air, that is protesters throwing the tear gas back at officers. I talked about that a little bit ago. I think police are descending a little bit further on to the 1st Avenue Street. Right now, Beth and Mike, we're on 5th Street North and 1st Avenue. What you're seeing is tear gas being deployed right now on protesters. This is where Vinyl Taco, JL Beers has been looted, the Hodo has been looted. People, almost everybody out here right now has, you can see tear gas. We're gonna have to back up. We're gonna back up. Michael, we have to go.
Okay, we seem to have this situation kind of sandwiched. We've got a camera where you're at, Bailey, and for goodness sakes, get to a safe location. The other camera that we have, we can take, which also is on the opposite side of that. Well, at least we had it, but they too are backing up because obviously this is a dangerous situation. You've got things happening, tear gas being flown, explosions going on. You don't know who may be friend or may be someone that you don't want to bump into.
And Courtney mentioned there's a little bit of a breeze going through downtown Fargo, so that tear gas is carrying as it goes. So even if you're not in that direct area, it is starting to disperse and carry throughout downtown. I know they were feeling it over, 2 blocks over now from where they are currently as this continues to spread throughout downtown Fargo, continuing to back up.
Courtney, Lackey, can you hear us? What are you seeing? Because you're on the opposite side of where Bailey Hurley was.
What did he say?
Courtney, what can you see?
Mike, I'm having a hard time hearing you, but I'll go ahead and I'll tell you what I'm seeing here. We were just on 1st Avenue North, and there's been a lot of fires that have been starting, and that is when pepper balls, tear gas, all of it just started going on, rapid fire. There goes another one. The people that are on the receiving end of these are actually picking them up and throwing them back at the police right now. We have a lot of people out here on the side still that aren't moving back regardless of what police are doing, but that tear gas is pretty strong.
Courtney, can you fill in the blanks for us on what happened with that incident with the police when that gentleman approached the line of officers?
Beth, we're going to have to go ahead and throw it back into you in the studio.
Absolutely. Thank you, Courtney. Stay safe and continuing to back up. As you see the crowds there now engaging with the media. We're there to tell the story. We are there to educate and inform people of what is happening. Hate to see our young reporters out there being approached like that.
And as you can see, it's starting to get dark out there. The sun is setting, and we're hoping that cooler heads will prevail, and this is going to come to an end before it gets worse. We've seen looting, we've seen damage, we've seen vandalism to our downtown stores and restaurants, something that no one wanted to see. What we also may have thought would have taken place. But what do we have now?
We have an organizer. Bailey is joined now by an organizer from the protests today. Bailey, take it away.
Beth, Mike, we moved much farther away from the violence that's happening near Broadway and First right now, but I'm here now joined with Joseph Lewis. He is one of the organizers of Black Lives Matter, the march that happened this morning.
Right.
Tell me what's happening right now and your reaction.
I can tell you for sure what's going on right now. I have no idea. This morning, we came in good faith as Black Lives Matter protesters, and we peacefully organized our protest this morning. The police were with us. We got to full support and cooperation of the police to organize our protest. The Black Lives Matter protest this morning ended at 6:00 p.m. So what's going on right now? No, that's not us. 95% of people I have seen here, they don't belong to Black Lives Matter, because I know who our people were this morning.
I was also there, and I know that this isn't the same group.
Right.
So to see this happen after you organized something that was executed so peacefully,
right.
What's your reaction to see this?
I'm a little frustrated. Not even a little, actually. I am devastated by all of what is going on right now. This is not Fargo. This is not the Fargo I know, right? I've been here for up to 3 years. So I know the Fargo mohair I know. This is not what it should be right now. But do I condone what is going on? No. because I don't know anything. I don't know why it got to this level. I don't know how it got to this level. I don't know what happened. 2 hours later, after our protest, I was at my house. I just got called from friends like, hey, this is what's going on. You got to come and stick this. But one thing I can say for sure, that this is not our Black Lives Matter protest. This is not it. This cannot be it. Black Lives came this morning to protest peacefully for our beloved and fallen brother, George Floyd. This can be what Floyd would have wanted for Fargo or anywhere else. This can definitely be. Yes.
Also this morning, when you guys were outside of the Fargo Police Department, both Deputy Chief Todd Osmondson,
Right.
they held signs saying, we are all one race, the
Right,
human
right.
race, justice for George Floyd. So obviously you had backing from the Fargo Police Department
Sure.
as well as others. So to see this happening now and people attacking all law enforcement here, this has to hurt for you.
It does. It does. You know, one thing we want to make clear to everyone is the change we want is at the level of the system. You can have whatever strength you have, you fight a cop, you bring him down. That won't bring the change we want. That's what people don't get. Our message is clear. It has always been clear from Rock of Ages. We want change. But what change do we want? It's at the level of the system. So fighting an individual doesn't bring that change. That's what we want to make clear, and that's what Black Lives stand for. We want a peace. We want peace, right? But this peace has to come from the level of the system. We are against the so much injustices the system has brought to us. That's why we protest. So this morning, having us go out to have our protest, having a full cooperation and support of the police, that's a healthy way of going forward, right? So that's what we want, but this cannot be it. I can tell you for sure, this cannot be it, and this is not a healthy way to the future. I condemn it. I condemn it at all levels. I do not stand for this, and Black Lives Matter done.
I think that's a powerful way to end that, Beth and Mike, condemning all of the actions that are happening right now here in downtown Fargo. How do you think this will end before we send it back to the studio? How do you think what's happening right now, how do you think this can end?
Yes,
what's your name?
My name is Faith Dixon. We've been down here trying to stop these children. They're children. They're angry. They do have a right to be angry. This is the cause and effect of murdering an innocent man on camera. But these are children. I don't believe that it's going to end well. I am praying that they please get the message, and that's why we've been out here, not out here just to sightsee, but we've been out here asking them, please stop, please don't do that. They're not here for that. These are police officers that have families. I'm a business owner in the area, so I do not want to be looted. This is insane, and to hear a place that I eat at, which is JL Beers, has been raided and looted is insane. We just wanted to stop. This is not what we stand for. And this gentleman put on a beautiful protest this morning, Black Lives Matter, and that's why we came out to support them. And then to see this 2 hours later at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock was just insane. And so this is, we understand, we're all angry. What we saw was injustice.
Everyone is hurt.
Yes, we are
Right?
hurting. George Floyd was a brother. All the black people that have lost their lives to police brutality. But this is not the way. This is not the way.
It's never been the way.
No, it's
right?
not.
Martin Luther King said, protest is the language of the unheard. It's not rioting. It's not looting, you know? But again, let me be clear about this, though. Let me be real clear about this. What's going on right now, I do not accept it, and I do not in any way, shape, or form support it, and Black Lives done, right? But again, we can't control this. People are hurt, right? There are a lot of things that have already played, that have factored into this. Yeah. Emotions, people are angry and stuff and things like that. So we don't know, right? I can't tell you if the police is right with what they are doing right now, throwing tear gas and things like that. I can tell you people who are protesting and rioting are also right. I don't know what went into it. But what I know for sure, this is not what we wanted this morning. Black Lives did not want that. And up to this point, we have not in any way, shape, or form wanted that. So we can stand with our philosophy as Black Lives Matter movement and lead protester this morning that we want peace. But the peace we want is something that we want for everyone. We want the support and cooperation of everyone. Local citizen, black, white, police, and everyone. Because that's the way we can see ourselves going far out to a healthy future. And that's what we want, and that's what we stand by today. So I'm happy to have you guys right by me still, saying this morning. Thank you.
Joseph, a question that we've talked about on air tonight is, where are these people coming from? Are these people from Fargo? Where do you have any
plates all over?
From what I heard, and I was up there and got a little bit of the tear gas, is that some are from Minnesota. They're coming up here. They heard about the march. They're young children. I mean, 18 to maybe 24. They want to see violence. They want to see rooting. They've been locked up for 2.5 months with the coronavirus, and so I think that plays into it too. But I did not hear a lot of the Fargo. I'm here from Fargo. A lot of them is that this is Minnesota. We're going to tear this up like we did Minnesota. So I think they're coming from all over. And we've seen that all over the United States right now, is that there's riots. And there's media people that are out. They're amping them on. They're, oh, go, do this, do that. And so it's not, it's most definitely not something that we want to see. This is heartbreaking. It's very heartbreaking.
Right.
Faith, Joseph, thank you so much. Mike and Beth, I'm going to send this back to you. We can come back out with Joseph and Faith if you need, but I'm going to send it back to you for right now.
All right, thanks so much, Bailey. And if history has proven us anything, it's that there are the outsiders that tend to come in and stir things up. We saw this at the pipeline protests out in the south of Mandan. Governor Walz this morning, as he addressed the media, talked about what he thought was the 80-20 ratio, that 20% of the rioting that was going on was from Minnesotans, the rest were from outsiders. So as those folks indicated, maybe this is a similar situation. Some folks are coming in and, yeah, they're coming in with evil intentions.
And without the, connection to the city that they're tearing apart. As you heard Faith say, that's a restaurant I eat in. That, I'm a business owner. And when you have folks coming from out of town, there's a lot less sentimental mentality there when you think about throwing a chair through somebody's window.
Valley News Team's Katie Opperly is downtown now. Katie, where are you at, and what can you tell us?
Mike, I'm here right by Gate City Bank off of 2nd Avenue North. We just saw crowds of people running our direction as more tear gas was deployed. There's a few things that I want to show you here in this area. Here at Gate City Bank, we just wanted to show one example of the continued vandalism in this area. Both doors to the entrance to Gate City Bank are completely shattered, glass on the ground, just completely vandalized. Obviously, someone had gained access into the bank. And also, you can hear the continued bangs as police respond to the crowds over my shoulder. We're going to give you a better look over here really quickly. There is still a great number of people over here. This is over by Gate City Bank and over by the exchange. It's just continued. There's glass shattered. There's pottery tipped over. There's continued people just in crowds of people right now. There is just gas being deployed right this moment, if you can see it, just right over by Vinyl Taco over. We have our photog pointing at that direction. It's just mayhem at this point.
Katie, can you see some of the rioters as where you're at?
Lead me to a curb, please. We can see some of the rioters in this area. They're over in the area over by Vinyl Taco at that same intersection of Broadway and First. We are about a block away from that area over here as we were seeing some of the vandalism in this area. It's just continued to be in that same area where police and these protesters or rioters are met. Something else that we also did want to show you is that people are not taking the notion that police said to stay away from downtown seriously, as there are also tons of cars just circling this area just to see what's going on. It's just car after car, traffic backed up as more people are onlooking to what's going on in the area, where the tear gas is, where the flames are, and where rioters continue.
All right, Katie Opperly reporting. Always a case of rubberneckers wherever you go, and if you didn't hear, or if you have somebody that's down in that area, you might want to let them know that the mayor has called a situation, emergency situation, where you're not supposed to be out and about now, especially down in that area. So if you've got family or friends that are down there checking things out, you might want to let them know to come on home.
It's right. It's a state of emergency that was issued about 37 minutes ago, just at the top of the 9 o'clock hour, about Tim Mahoney issuing that state of emergency. I do want to tell you, it looks like we've maybe got Sasha here ready to go. They just had to reorganize after a pretty serious scene there down where Bailey Hurley was just bringing us an interview with a local organizer for today's protest. Let's go now to Alexandra Kay for this latest down there on the scene. Alexandra, what are you seeing?
But that's right. It's been absolute mayhem here, as you have seen from us before. But just recently, I saw fireworks going off just down the street. I'm going to have Michael just show you down there where all that smoke you can see is still. And this, I'm sure you can hear that. That is somebody is just spinning their tires on the ground. There's smoke coming up so much from that. It's burning everybody's eyes, just as bad as that tear gas was. And again, I say we just saw people lighting off fireworks down there. I got reports from somebody saying that they saw a cardboard lit on fire thrown into one of the businesses. I don't know if that is, as you can hear, there's just bangs going off and mayhem going down that street. Right now, rioters seem to be kind of inching their way away from that area. We're not sure if the police is kind of making their way back there right now. But as you can see, the rioters are coming closer and closer and cars have nowhere to go.
Now, Alexandra,
we have reports that we are seeing people coming down. Yes,
Alexandra, you were running a camera and collecting video for a long portion of our coverage down there tonight in amongst some of the people. What can you say and how can you speak to the demeanor of the people that you were shoulder to shoulder with?
Absolutely, Beth, and I have to say, a lot of angry people, just like the interviewers who we spoke with a little bit earlier. They said anger. There's been a lot of angry people. It seems like people have been angry with us. I apologize for the sound that you might be hearing here, but you can see people are angry with each other. It seems like they're hyping each other up. They're hyping each other up against the police, and they're starting to destroy each other's vehicles and each other's, personal items. People seem to just be very, very angry, and they're hyping each other up. And I want to say, we just saw some folks walking around with masks, hats, hoodies up, and bats. They are carrying bats, and they're walking around these parked cars here. You can only imagine that things are going to get worse. I wanted to show you right over here. We have got cars driving on the sidewalk. I think people just have nowhere else to go, and they seem to just be driving in circles on the sidewalks. I'm not totally sure what the goal of that circle is, but as you can see, traffic is starting to really back up also because there's just nowhere to go.
Yes, police have really blocked off that main intersection that we've been kind of focusing on for the last 2 hours or so of this live coverage here on Valley News Live. That
First Avenue and Broadway.
Thank you. Yes, has really kind of become the epicenter for all of this. And you're right, there's nowhere for these cars to go. So the gawkers are kind of, we've seen some of those same cars now that Katie pointed out. We just saw them then there again with Alexandra Kay. I do want to report Bailey Hurley sending us a text here on the desk. She says, cops caught a fleeing vehicle on 10th Street North and 1st Avenue. The car slammed into oncoming traffic, trying to get away. Multiple injuries. Cops are everywhere. She just received that message as, again, this is starting to wrinkle out from that downtown scene as well.
Well, and when Alexandra first started her report, she mentioned the fireworks, and I can't imagine the worst thing a person can do is lighting off fireworks in a volatile situation like that. It's the kind of jittery thing that could make things, really get to a point where there's harm done to each other.
And an area that we aren't as accustomed to certain bangs or sounds or things like that. And so people hear a loud pop, and there's reason for instant panic, especially with such an escalated situation. You've heard each of our reporters speak to the fact that there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of raised tension. So just adding that volatility to it with loud bangs outside of obviously the tear gas, which it's tear gas, it's followed by that smoke, but just to continue to escalate on it is a shame to see.
Okay, our shot dropped there, but just before it did, and our photographer is making a move, and I don't question that at all. If you've got to move, you've got to move. But just before the shot dropped, I had noticed that the line of law enforcement is slowly making its way and now is standing, which would be, I believe, to the east of Vinyl Taco, kind of right in between JL Beers and Vinyl Taco, that's kind of where the law enforcement have now made their way down that street.
Another block towards all of that action that we've continued to see progress here throughout this evening. Again, taking you through this timeline, a peaceful march that was now close to 11 hours ago that started in protest of the death of George Floyd. You heard from one of the leaders of the march who said that they had planned a peaceful protest in accordance with the Fargo Police Department. It went off with execution. He said he himself had gone home, and then around that 6 o'clock hour started to hear of volatile situations in downtown Fargo that he says were not a part of his organization. He had gone home and then heard later about what was happening in downtown Fargo, and this is the scene that has progressed over since 6 o'clock when Fargo police first started to alert everybody to stay away because things were escalating.
And as you said, the mayor has now called a state of emergency. Everyone should be off the streets. Everyone should be home, so that even if you are, an innocent bystander but curious as to know what's going on in the downtown area, maybe you were a part of that original Black Lives Matter group, the best advice is to get home, get out of the way right now, because you're not supposed to be out there. Bottom line is, you're not supposed to be out there.
And it looks like Alexandra is ready. Alexandra, what do you have for us? What are you seeing as things continue to progress?
They're taking them
As you can see, it's getting much darker, and so I think more and more people are starting to come out with a lot of different weapons. Like I mentioned earlier, we saw some folks walking with bats, and I do want to point attention to the Fargo police just tweeted this 1 minute ago that they have seen a lot of concerning posts and messages regarding some individuals walking around. Looks like a group of about 5 of them, and they seem to be holding guns. Now, these individuals in this particular photo were detained and released, but again, I just want to say that as a warning to any of those that might be out right now. We have seen people walking around with weapons. We've seen people walking around with bats, and we see a photo here walking around with guns. Again, I just want to show you what we're seeing here. Again, when you asked me about what kind of vibes and feelings I was seeing as I was walking around with my crew filming this, there seemed to have been a lot of anger, but almost a camaraderie between people as they were looting. They went into JL Beers, took out a massive carton of, I believe it was bottles of beer, and everybody came together and grabbed one, kind of an almost celebration. Now, this was quite frightening to see, of course. This is the car. The same vehicle keeps doing this. I have seen this multiple times, just revving their engine and having their tires spin, creating some really heavy smoke. I can only imagine what it's like for the people that are in these buildings here. We see some pops going off. I think that those are those fireworks that I had mentioned earlier. I'm also seeing quite a lot of bystanders that are just standing here and watching. We have seems to be a group of folks right in the middle there that are creating all this mayhem and wreaking havoc. However, if you take a look over here to the left, there's people just kind of standing and watching and observing, seeing what's happening. Just waiting to see what's going to be the next move. Is the riot team, are they going to continue to move forward, clearing this area out? But again, reports of people carrying weapons, and as it's getting darker, this is going to be harder to see. So warning any of those that might be coming out to be very, very careful and just stay home, because it's pretty wild out here.
It's so much a part of our society today to stand around with your phone held over your shoulders, high above your head, in hopes of capturing that moment.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, I understand, and we're seeing some of that downtown right now, but bottom line is you're not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
And you might wind up in trouble with the law if you don't disperse and head home. So, and as we can see right now, if we go to our other camera right now, more and more people are doing that, obviously, fueled by some more tear gas that has been dumped in that particular area.
You know, this is not a sporting event. This is not a celebrity sighting. This is not a reason to have your cell phone out capturing a moment. There is no glamour in this moment at this point as it continues to progress in downtown Fargo. So again, urging you, share on your stories, share on your Twitter feed, encouraging people to go home, reach out to those you might know that are downtown, and start to disperse this situation so that the police can do their job and continue to distinguish between bystander and obviously somebody trying to wreak havoc.
All right, Bailey Hurley sent us a photo. Let's go to it right now. This is the car that was indicated earlier that was trying to flee and apparently it lost control as authorities were giving it chase, and then ended up crashing. And now you can see, we are grateful for the individual who allowed us to use that photo, but you can see law enforcement around there. Maybe some of the rioters trying to get away. Don't know, have no idea, but bottom line is it has been detained, and authorities are now on the scene and have whoever was in that vehicle at least apprehended and in custody right now.
And that was 10th Street North and 1st Avenue that car slammed into oncoming traffic.
I believe Katie Opperly is available now. Katie Opperly, can you hear us and tell us what you have for us?
Mike, I can hear you. Right now, we're just outside on the back side of Gate City Bank where that drive-through area is. Police and other law enforcement continue to advance their line. They are no longer at the 1st Avenue North and Broadway area. They are here advanced by the JL Beers. Actually, even up past JL Beers, they continue to push crowds back using tear gas, flashbangs. People are even setting off fireworks. It's just a really tense scene right now, but police and other law enforcement are lined up in this area in front of JL Beers, continuing to block that area off. As you can still see, there are dozens of people here. They're standing all around me as people continue to spectate. Just moments ago, we saw people actually approaching the line of officers with their hands raised above their heads, chanting. And so that was when those tear gas was released once again, and they were pushed back. And here we are, where most of the crowd in this area continues to stand. And that's what we've been seeing lately, Mike.
All right, you know, and you have to wonder if the folks were to go home, and I know that curiosity rules in situations like this, but if the fans or the folks that are there checking things out were just simply to go home, what that would do to maybe lessening the tension, maybe taking the pressure off situation right now, and maybe saying to some of the rowdies that maybe their message or their time has come and gone, and it's time to go as well.
And they wouldn't be able to hide amongst the innocent. You know, you wouldn't be able to hide amongst the crowd, because right now there's mass numbers and it's hard to distinguish who is trying to talk down the protesters, the rioters, and who is just trying to witness the scene and who's actually causing some of this havoc. So if people were to disperse a little bit, and that's actually exactly what the Fargo police just tweeted out moments ago, saying, "We appreciate the outpouring of support from our community and those who are asking how they can help. Please stay safe by staying away from the downtown area. We have the help of all local law enforcement agencies, to which we are so grateful for. #Fargo Strong." So again, the Fargo police asking you to go home once again. This is a state of emergency in the city of Fargo. The Fargo police tweeting that out as of 9:46 tonight, so just moments ago, asking you again to go home. And again, people, you know, Mike, I'm hearing from people thanking you for encouraging people to hold on to any videos or photos of the action that they're seeing, the people they're witnessing looting some of this, so that they can hold those people accountable.
All right, let's go to the photo that we showed earlier, but this is just a little bit closer. And all I can tell from this point is maybe it's a Chevrolet or maybe a Dodge car. I can't be sure. Red is about all I can tell you, and I can't even tell the license plate on it. But nonetheless, that's the car that tried to speed off and was involved in a bit of an accident. And you can see some of the debris in that area, and authorities around there making the arrests of the individuals involved. We have no idea as to who was in the car, but suspect that it was some of the folks that weren't going to be heading home to their own place tonight.
Well, and Bailey reporting in that initial report that there are multiple injuries, as that was a head-on accident, that vehicle trying to flee, going head-on into other traffic, multiple injuries reported, and just not the kind of thing that the police need on top of. So even if it wasn't somebody fleeing, again, we hate to speculate or pass judgment on what caused this accident at this point, but really wanting to make sure that you're lessening the workload on these officers who clearly have their hands full downtown. Full strength of all local law enforcement is what Fargo police said in that latest tweet, meaning that they have requested help and assistance from the surrounding areas to be able to have this, but not needing to respond to any of those unnecessary accidents at this point would be great.
Just a little observation, but over the last maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes, we haven't had any report on scene downtown of any further violence. Fingers crossed, speculating, but maybe that's a sign of this thing maybe loosening up a little bit, lessening a little bit, if you will, and we'll hopefully go downtown shortly to see if that is in fact true, and maybe we're starting to see things calm down just a little bit. We have cameras over. We can see that Alexander is trying to talk to some folks down there, maybe getting something lined up. But until then, we're just going to... okay, hold on. Alexander, can you hear us? Okay, who do you have there?
I can hear you. I have Olivia here with me. Yeah, this is Olivia. She is one, I almost recognized her from the protest that I was at earlier today. She's one of the folks that was at the protest today, and she's actually here giving out snacks and food to those that are standing around. Olivia, tell me what's going on. What are you seeing? How are you feeling?
Well, I was at home. I went home from the protest I went all the way over to West Fargo, and I ended up going home after that because I walked, 9 miles, and I thought that it was going to end there, but from what I've heard, this is an entirely different group. The people who were leading the group before have left, so this is not what was planned for it at all. And if anyone watching has access to the event, I'm sure you do, it's people have posted in there this is not what we're intending. So I'm not sure what's going on with this, but I felt kind of icky just sitting at home, and I saw actually also on Facebook just if you can do anything, even if you're not rioting, you should be there with either milk or food or water or something. So I was I have a jug of milk in my backpack. I've got just chips and crackers, and so I'm if I can do anything to help. I hate seeing this go on in my own city. I grew up here, so.
This is one thing that we talked about also, is that it seems like a lot of these people, they have almost a disregard for the businesses that they are destroying. Now, you're from here. When you see Vinyl Taco or JL Beers, the windows are smashed, everything's been looted. How do you feel that as a native from here?
Well, it sort of breaks my heart to see that, and I know that, and the phrase has been going around a lot with Martin Luther King Jr., riot is the language of the unheard. So as much as it breaks my heart, it sort of feels necessary to get people to be heard. The way that we're going to get rid of the rioting is if things actually start changing. This needs to happen. As much as it is terrible, buildings can be rebuilt, but people cannot. So this needs to happen.
My question to you is this is not the same crowd as it was before. Again, walk me through the emotions and the vibes that you saw when the protesters met the Fargo police earlier today. What was that like?
People were definitely angry. You can see the anger going around here, but it was a very justified anger, and an anger that was we're trying to express that we're hurt and we need to be heard, and less so that they're trying to spar with the police or that they're trying to spark violence. It's just we want to be heard, and we're expressing it as loud as we can to the people who are in charge.
Well, thank you, Olivia, so much for joining us. And again, this is one of the protesters that was there at the very peaceful protest that happened earlier earlier today. And like Olivia said, this is not the same crowd that is here right now, and this is not the same crowd not the same energy and the vibe that was happening from this morning to this afternoon.
Alexander, I have a question for you now. Are we starting to hear and see things calm down in the downtown area?
Mike, that's a very good question. This is what I was also thinking myself too. What I seem to be seeing is that there is that group of people right in the center, right in the middle, that are still chanting, that are still throwing things, that are still making a lot of loud noises. But like I mentioned earlier, we have pockets of people on the sides that are quietly standing, just kind of observing and watching what's going on. There have been lots of cars just zooming through these streets. It seems like they're making circles because they just keep coming back. But again, I haven't seen any of those fireworks. I haven't really seen much of that smoke happening or heard any of those flash grenades going off in a little bit. So we don't have a clear view of the police department of the Riot Squad there, but it does seem to be getting a little bit quieter. However, there are still howls in the background. Now, Mike and Beth, I do want to say that the Fargo Police Department is utilizing emergency powers. Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney has ordered a curfew for the downtown Fargo area to go into effect at 10 p.m. tonight in 4 minutes. Again, I want to repeat, Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney has ordered a curfew for the downtown Fargo area to go into effect at 10 p.m. tonight. That is in 4 minutes. It is crucial that you do follow this curfew. After all, this gives all these protesters just 4 minutes to get scattered, but I don't know if many of them will. But that is what's happening with the utilizing emergency powers.
Alexander K. reporting from downtown Fargo. Thank you, and continue to stay safe. Yeah, we're watching the clock too. 10 o'clock is going to be the witching hour for this situation. It could be the moment when we maybe see police move in. I can't imagine that they're going to work so much on the outlying folks that have been watching, but I think that group that we have been talking about that has kind of been pushed into this, law enforcement circle, if you will, may run into a situation here in a couple minutes that...
And those officers have been spending hours now standing there on that corner with their eyes on the same people that continue to come up and agitate and do all that. So you would have to imagine they are starting to make those distinguishing factors of who are causing problems, who are bystanders, but at the same time, being a bystander does not make you innocent in this situation. We're talking about a state of emergency in the city of Fargo. That means you should be home. That means your loved one should be home. That curfew that takes effect here in just a couple of minutes. The Fargo police are telling you that you should not return until that curfew has been cleared. We do not have a frame of structure for that curfew right now, just that it takes effect at 10. No word yet on when that will rise. So go home and stay home until you hear otherwise.
And if I had a wish in the next 2.5 minutes or less than that, 2 minutes, I hope that both folks, both sides are staring each other down, and when 10 o'clock starts, they turn and go their way. And they go their way without
an optimistic man.
Any further trouble. We don't need it. We don't want it.
No, it doesn't help anyone at this point. It's important to start clearing out and start making your way safely home, joining your loved ones out safely home as this continues to unfold. And you see, as Alexander K., as Bailey Hurley has reported to us, you see those crowds just kind of mulling around. Even you saw people laughing and joking as they observe this situation. Obviously a very different scene up there closer, as now we've kind of zoomed in a little bit closer to see that line of officers moving forward and advancing.
And I think I hate to quarterback from the desk here, but camera people, obviously we're a minute away from the 10 o'clock curfew kicking in, so get yourself established so that whatever happens, we can be right there and show it to the folks at home. And as I said, I hope it's nothing more than everybody turning and going home. The way things have gone over the last several hours, that might not be the case, at least for maybe a dozen or more individuals who seem to be very locked into the fact that they're here for the entire bout, if you will.
Well, and I think it's interesting looking at those crowds. We just had that shot from Michael where you could see the crowds or you could see the officers continuing to advance that line. You can see some sort of trailer behind them, which I'm not privy to what that is, but it certainly wasn't there an hour ago, some time ago. But you start to see people kind of hold a sort of line, a standoff.
Okay, we're getting word that for the folks that are watching us on the Fargo CW, we are going back to regular programming. Obviously, this is a very heightened moment. You can continue to cover it because we are starting our newscast normally on KVLY and KX. So thank you for joining us there. And for you CW folks, thanks for staying with us. If you are just joining us, we are continuing to cover the developments, the happenings that have been going on for several hours live here on Valley News Live, focusing on the downtown Fargo area with regard to the, I guess it would be the second round of what's developed when we go from a peaceful protest, a march throughout the streets of Fargo that took us through the mall, took us to police departments both in Fargo and West Fargo, made their way back, ending at 6 o'clock and then turning into a much heightened situation since then.
And what we're seeing right now, and that's where we find Valley News Team's Bailey Hurley, our crime and safety reporter, out there covering this protest throughout the day, turning into riots this evening. Bailey, what are you seeing now as we continue to see that police force advance?
Beth, it's eerily quiet right now. We're a little bit farther back just to be safe, but you can see the crowd continues to just inch forward. They get tear gas, they inch forward, they go back to right up against where the police presence is. That they get tear gassed again, everybody comes running, and then once the tear gas fades, they again move in. We've seen garbage cans being put on top of tear gas once it is deployed. We've seen people kick the tear gas back at officers as a way to save the rest of the protesters, if you will. We've seen people throwing rocks. We've seen people throwing frozen water bottles, just anything that they can find. What you're seeing right now, we're on 1st Avenue, right near 5th Street North. Vinyl Taco has been looted. All of their windows are broken. JL Beers has been looted. All of their windows have been broken. People went into the restaurant earlier. They came out with buckets of JL Beer alcohol. They gave it around to everybody who could grab some, which, Beth, I told you earlier, it makes me nervous to mix what's happening, what you're seeing here now, with alcohol. I do not think that is a mixture that should be happening. But also, so we're kind of at the calm before the storm. Again, we're on 1st Avenue, 5th Street North. But I want to talk about, we talked with one of the organizers of the Black Lives Matter movement just a few minutes ago, Joseph Lewis. He's one of the ones who organized this morning's march. He said he's disgusted. He condemns what's happening right now. This is not what he wanted. He had a peaceful protest. It ended in downtown at 6 p.m. And from there on out, he says this is not what he organized, what he wanted. He does not understand why this is happening. He says everybody has a right to be angry and show that in whatever way that they want, but this is not the way that you show it. This is not the way that change is made, he says. Those were very powerful words. Also, one of our reporters just talked with somebody who was at this morning's protest. She also said it breaks her heart to see what's happening here. There's people walking up and down the streets with milk jugs for those who get tear gas to help them when it gets in their eyes, into their throats. We've been tear gassed a few times tonight. I have to tell you, Mike and Beth, it's terrible. But we're getting a little bit closer, but I want to see if Katie Opperly has anything to show you on her side. We're on opposite sides of the protesters right now, so I'm going to throw it back to you.
All right, thanks so much. Bailey, before we go away, do you see, because now we have the curfew in effect, is there any movement with regard to the remaining protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, and law enforcement? Has that moved anywhere in the last 3 minutes or 4 minutes since the curfew took effect?
I'm going to swoop you around here. We've got some roads that are being closed. If that's being done by officials, I'm not sure, but we're seeing roads over here as well. More people are running. More flashbangs and tear gas is being deployed right now. Mike, to answer your question in short, no, I do not see a curfew impacting anything that's happening here right now. More people, if anything, seem to be joining on the corners, getting closer to police presence. You can see some white trailers that have kind of dawned in on this scene near 1st Avenue and Broadway. I'm not really sure what those are. It seems like they're helping move people back. So, no, Mike, this curfew is not helping any situation, and I don't know what you can see people are destroying property here now. Obviously, this curfew is not doing anything, and I don't know what kind of consequences anybody is going to have for not following the 10 p.m. curfew. I'm not sure what Fargo police is going to deploy next to get people off the streets. We'll continue to keep you updated here, though. That curfew has already started, and
We haven't seen anything or heard anything from police yet, but we'll keep you updated.
And the bottom line with that, too, is that although we have our phone and you're listening to us and we're able to read everything that comes to us, a lot of the folks that are right in the thick of it right now, they're probably not checking their phones, they're probably not getting the messages, and probably don't know that there is a state of emergency or a curfew in effect in Fargo right now.
Absolutely. Let's find out the scene on the other side of this protest. As Bailey mentioned, Katie Opperly joins us now from kind of that other side. Katie, what's the scene like on yours? It looks maybe a little bit calmer than what Bailey's in the middle of.
Yes, Beth, Mike, I'm here just off the intersection of 5th Street North and 1st Avenue North. We are very close to what, all the mayhem is happening. There's still that line of police, and now there's that form of lined up people shoulder to shoulder right in front of them. We are just probably 100 yards away from that, and there are just people standing around in small groups, recording it with their phones, spectating, continuing to watch what's going to happen as these curfews are going into effect and as police continue to try and calm this situation down, keep this situation under control. It seems like right now in our area, things are very calm. No one over here in our area is acting aggressively or chanting, but if you just look right over my shoulder, that's where all the chanting is. We heard some broken bottles, things along those lines. So there still is aggression in this area, but it seems as though that it's just a small group that is face to face with the officers at this time.
Katie, Bailey Hurley reported that they were setting up some barriers along certain streets where she's at, probably to keep some of the traffic out of there. Now, we're not seeing so much traffic in your area. Are you seeing any streets blocked off, any avenues blocked off to try and, again, maybe encircle this area a lot easier, get people out of there?
Yes, actually, just a block down from here, over by Gate City Bank, it was civilians that set up cones across the way to stop people from coming into this area. My photographer Marley is going to show you that right now. They took cones from another area and actually set them up to keep vehicles from coming in and out of this area and cut down some of that traffic. There have been other street barriers around this area, but there isn't any along this intersection, and cars do continue to come freely in and out where all the people are, and so there is that risk of all the people gathering along with cars coming in and out. So it just looks like that's why they set up the cones on this other side of the intersection.
All right, Katie, thanks so much for giving us a little feel for what's going on where you're at. It seems like this area, the problem area, may be shrinking a little bit. Law enforcement trying to get a little bit of a better grip on where everything's at, the hot spot, so to speak, so that maybe they can try to organize a way of getting the rioters, protesters out peacefully. We're still waiting. Bailey Hurley, you have something for us, Bailey?
Just here to give you a little bit more of an update. You can see, my camera might not be able to see it, but so again, we're on 1st Avenue North, and I can see more head officers on the bridge going to the other side of the river. So I know that roads are continuing to start being more blocked off. You can see, Mike, from the last time we checked in with you, which just was about 5 minutes ago, more people are already on the street here. Again, we're on 1st Avenue and 5th Street North. Large groups of people kind of stopped by Vinyl Taco and the Hodo. All of those windows, again, are all broken out. Roads continuing to be blocked as much as possible, but traffic is still going through here. People really ripping through the area at high speeds, their tires squealing. We've talked with a few people. They don't know that there is a curfew happening. They're all on their phones. They all get all the social media updates, but none of them know that there is a curfew happening right now. And obviously that curfew is not doing anything to disperse any of these crowds. It's honestly, Mike, it's unlike anything I've ever seen.
Bailey, as you talk to people and you mention and you ask them, do they know about a curfew? What's their reaction then when you tell them we're past curfew?
What are the police going to do, basically, Beth? That's kind of their reaction. What are the police going to do? Because obviously the tear gassing hasn't done much. I mean, it makes people run as fast as they can down the block,
but then guess what, Beth? They just go right back once that tear gas fades away. We've seen it time and time again. Tear gas, run away, get back right up into police's face. So that's kind of the reaction we've gotten. Yes, hey, did you know that there's a curfew? No, but what are they going to do? That is the exact reaction that we've gotten. And I have the same question for police, because as the night goes on, Mike and Beth, I'm not sure what else could happen here in downtown.
Well, it seems like the pocket, the as you called it earlier, the epicenter seems to be at that intersection. And if they can get that taken care of, then maybe everybody else, which we hope aren't the backups to the rioters or the protesters. They're just simply people that are onlooking, curious, that
Right.
checking things out. Maybe once this thing is taken care of, then everybody goes home.
Yeah, and you see that line there as our photographer Michael is zoomed in there on that line, kind of that front line of protester, rioter against police that again continues to remain fairly peaceful right there. It looks like there's been no contact made from what we've been able to see, but obviously heightened tensions there as they continue to be pushed further down that street, moving away from Broadway and coming down towards obviously where our crew is now, as those trailers behind them continue to push forward. The officers with their riot gear on, their shields to help push people back. But continuing to have to ask yourself, what will come of this? When does it stop? When do you start making arrests versus just continuing to hold a line here? Because that's what we've been seeing since about 6 o'clock when officers first took to the streets in downtown Fargo to protect downtown Fargo and try and calm down protesters as they became violent after a very successful, peaceful protest that started a good almost 12 hours ago now, as this was a peaceful protest looking to honor the life of George Floyd. Obviously now things have taken a turn here. About 6 o'clock we got reports that violence had started to pick up. And
I would be remiss if I didn't take just 30 seconds to say thanks so much to the crews that have been in downtown Fargo. Katie Opperly, Bailey Hurley, Alexandra Kay, Marley, Michael Downs,
Courtney Lackey,
all of those folks.
And Joshua Piguero running errands as well.
Forgive me because I just came in.
Yes, no.
Thank you. And thank you to those folks who have been right into the thick of it. We're hoping that things are starting to just ease a little bit, and somehow the remaining protesters, rioters, whatever you want to call them, they're done. They're about ready to go home, and so can everyone else. But thanks for being on the front line right there. We've talked so much about that front line thing, and those folks have been there today.
And not to mention, several of our crew have been there from the very beginning this morning. A long day of covering this breaking news situation in here that has obviously taken over the nation as we see protests covering all the way across. I know I've got friends reporting in Seattle and California all the way over to D.C. where these protests have continued and risen, and we're seeing it now here in our own backyard. You know, we thought Minneapolis was close and that we felt the effects of that and watching all of that destruction, but now we're seeing it here in Fargo, in our own hometown, watching our local businesses as well.
All right, so let's catch our breath. We're going to take a break right now. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes as our coverage, live coverage in downtown Fargo, and what's developed into a Saturday night fright for a lot of folks in Fargo. We'll be back right after this on Valley News Live.
Well, welcome back into Valley News Live. We're bringing you breaking news coverage of riots in downtown Fargo after a peaceful protest this morning in memory of George Floyd escalated around 6 o'clock tonight in downtown Fargo. Our crews have been down in downtown Fargo covering this breaking scene, as well as Fargo police as they continue to try and contain this escalated situation. We go now live down to downtown Fargo, where our crime and safety reporter Bailey Hurley is joined with somebody who's been experiencing this as well. Bailey, we understand.
They running this way. You see that?
Beth, give me a second. There's some tear gas that's coming our way, so we're just going to get out of the way a little bit. But I'm joined here right now with Chardonnay. Chardonnay, I want to ask you a question. I haven't been able to ask you this yet. Do you know that there is a curfew right now for the city of Fargo?
I heard that there's a 10 o'clock curfew for the city of Fargo. Me and my friends, we were actually about to leave until you decided to interview me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think the curfew is going to do anything for this tonight?
Honestly, honest to God truth, like, I don't know what's going to make these people go home. You know, like, it's past 10 o'clock. These people are not going to leave. It's kind of sad, but I feel honestly like they're going to have to do very much for people to leave because people feel like they wanted their voice to be heard, you know? And just trying to get your voice to be heard, they decided to throw tear gas at you. That's not okay. You know what I'm saying? They at 6:02. That's why we're taking a break. At 6:02, they told us our protesters was unlawful. And they just immediately started throwing tear gas. They lied on the news at 6 o'clock and said we got violent, and we had never been violent. We were never violent. So now y'all having an outrage and people are tearing down the city. But the thing about it is because of this right here, police brutality. When we come out here even just to protest, we get tear gas because it's after 6 o'clock. And my curfew ain't until 10. I can protest till 10 o'clock. That's a free right, right? Is it free to gather together and protest? I didn't say riot, remind you. I said protest. It's free to get out and protest. We were not violent. We were just protesting. But at 6:02, they told us we had to stop protesting. They tried to take away our freedom to protest at 6:02, and they threw tear gas. And now they're questioning the people of Fargo for tearing up their buildings and responding back to them for the police brutality. You kill a man, you put your knee on the man's neck, and then we get out and we try to cry and bleed and tears for him, and then you tell us, you give us a certain time to be and bleed? You can't tell me how long to grieve. And for me to get out here as one, you got people, diversity of people, white, black, blue, color. You see, I said that, and I didn't mean it, but I meant just that. Any and every color is out here today, and they're showing these people and getting together for a purpose, and they wouldn't allow them people to do that. At 6:02, you could not tell them people to stop protesting. This is their free right. They don't give you right to throw tear gas because they were never violent.
But do you think now people are violent? Would you call this a riot now?
People are responding again to the police brutality. Again, because the police start throwing tear gas to the people for not doing nothing, their response again is to do something to the police. It keeps happening. When the police do something and don't make the right decision, they expect us to be citizens and still do what is right because they say they're protecting and serving us. But at the same time, they don't think about that grief that we had to deal with.
Thank you so much, Chardonnay. There's a lot coming on right now. I want you to stay safe. Thank you so much. Mike, Beth, there's a lot happening right now. We can hear some of the things that are being put on a police, the PA system of a squad car right now. I can't understand what they're saying, but more people are running this way. We can hear people yelling. We can hear some flashbangs, some more tear gas being thrown. I'm not really sure what's happening or what's being said by police, but things are getting a little bit more agitated right now. I'm going to throw it back to you. We'll try and figure out what's happening here, and I'll come back to you shortly.
All right. Energy getting picked up once again in downtown Fargo. We want to clear up something. We were been told that there's some social media communications indicating that buses of protesters are on their way there from Kmart. Is that where it is?
The Kmart parking lot.
Kmart parking lot. We're here to tell you that that is not true. That is not true. So if you're seeing that on Facebook or Instagram or whatever social media platform you're on, we can tell you that there are no buses right now. They are not coming into downtown Fargo.
Also important that we clear up, obviously an emotional situation there in downtown Fargo, but important to mention the Fargo police announcing that they were going to begin tear gassing people at the 8 o'clock hour. That was when they made the decision to start dispersing and throwing out the tear gas, and that's 2 hours after protesters had been asked to go home and the first items had been thrown, and a couple of officers had been in their squad car, had been approached by protesters at that point. Again, this according to the Fargo Police Department. They, for 2 hours, asked people to come out and then to disperse rather, and then at 8:09 the Fargo police announced that they were releasing tear gas.
Yeah, obviously what the woman was saying was maybe a little, obviously she was emotional, I understand that.
Yes.
6:02 was maybe when they were told to disperse, it was over with, and as the police indicated, it was after 8 o'clock before the first tear gas, and at least that's what we're getting.
And we want to put this into perspective for you. Obviously, today has been a long day. You've heard us continue to remind you that this event started early this morning with a peaceful protest. We had the opportunity to attend that peaceful protest and gather some of the sights and sounds, talk to people about why they were there and what this moment meant to them. And we want to return you to that package, to that story, in order to give you a little bit of perspective about where this day started from.
Thousands flooded the streets of downtown Fargo for George Floyd.
It's been happening for too long. He's got to stop. He got to stop. We're here to voice our opinion. Let our voices be heard.
The whole world is listening now. I don't condone the violence because I don't want to see cities burned, but we have a movement now. We have power now that we haven't had in a long time.
So this matters. We're staying here. We're marching for solidarity. To show that our lives, my son's life, my husband, my brothers, my friends, their lives matter.
Protesters made the trek from City Hall to the police department. Organizers keeping it peaceful.
Why is it important to be here today? For change, of course. Yeah, obviously, everyone's important. I mean, look all these people out here. Change time.
People need to stand up and stand together. You know, it's great to see people of all backgrounds out here together. It's real emotional.
Why is this important?
It is, because all we ask for is equality. We just want what's equal to us. It's important for our youth. It's important for everybody out here. It's very important. The riot can stop if they do the right thing.
In Fargo, Courtney Lackey, Valleynewslive.
And we go from that scene to this scene, and we're hoping our camera operator, who is obviously in some sort of a transition from place to place, will stabilize. But that's the situation that we are looking at. As you can see, our reporter, crime and safety reporter, Bailey Hurley, on the phone, working with Michael Downs down there. And Bailey, it looks like she's getting ready. Bailey, what do you have? We've got some people that are dispersing right now.
Mike, I'm gonna talk to you while we're getting far away. The police presence has moved far east from where they were earlier on First Avenue and Broadway. Oh my goodness, those are fireworks. People are lighting off anything that they can to kind of get a rise out of the protesters. Police presence is now at the corner of 5th Street North and First Avenue. You can see them, Michael, if we can zoom in on them. The police presence has quickly moved east. This is where most of all of the action has been all night. Tear gas is going to be deployed soon. The smoke that you see, that's from fireworks. You hear people revving their engines. The more police move, the more agitated people become. So right now, police presence, again, on 5th Street North and First Avenue North. They've moved significantly, at least 2 blocks east from when we have been checking in with you throughout the night. As I look towards the Moorhead side, there are officers who are blocking the bridge over on the other side of the river. People are really dispersed right now, but again, I've told you, as more people become tear gassed and things happen, they just go back right to where they came from and where they were before. Michael, can we zoom in on what's more fireworks? Oh my goodness. People are leaning and kneeling down in front of police presence right there again on 5th Street North and First Avenue. This is where all of the action has been tonight. It really there's fireworks everywhere, Mike, and they're shooting them in every which way. Michael, we're gonna back up a little bit. This is this is getting more dangerous as honestly, the seconds go on. I'm going to send it back to you guys. We're going to get a little bit farther back for our safety. I'll check back in with you in a few minutes.
All right, that's a good call, Bailey. What continues to be what I would describe maybe as a dozen folks now.
You really have seen those crowds disperse as it goes through. And so whether that's the police presence, and again, we heard earlier from our reporters that there were announcements going out over the PA from the police, and we couldn't quite make out what was being said, but you have to assume maybe that helped disperse this a little bit, maybe informing the crews or the people of those curfews of what could happen if you extend past them.
Once again, we want to reiterate something that we had just said just a few minutes ago, that there was some social media rumors, if you will, but some posts indicating that maybe there's buses of protesters that are going to be coming from the Kmart parking lot. That is not true. This is our Skycam shot.
There are cars gathering there, though.
There are cars there, which is normal. If you've been working in this area as long as we have, you know that that's kind of a social gathering point for a lot of folks on any given night. But there are no buses. The talk is that there's supposed to be buses of protesters that are going to be picked up and taken to downtown Fargo. That is not the case. You can see that plain and simple right there. But you know, as Bailey was reporting, it looks as though maybe even some of the spectators are now starting to back off. And yeah, the officers are continuing to push that dozen or so. And maybe I'm underestimating how many are out there, but it seems like we're starting to see we are starting to see maybe the same shots of individuals in the same clothing. They're not going away, but we have a tendency to understand who these people might be now. And so that's what's going on in downtown Fargo right now.
And we heard the firsthand account of some of that anger and frustration from somebody, you know, on the other side, from somebody who's participated in this protest, to hear that the agitation that is coming from it, to maybe shine some light on what is sparking this, their side of the story, just in how things have escalated, maybe a little bit different from some of the other bystanders, from obviously the gentleman that Bailey Hurley spoke with earlier in the night, that was one of the organizers for this protest. We do want to remind you there is a 10 p.m. curfew that is in place. That obviously has been in place for 31 minutes now and counting. There is no actual decision yet on when that curfew would be lifted, but according to the City of Fargo's Twitter account, the Fargo Police Department's Twitter account, they tell you that that curfew is in place, and that curfew is in place until they tell you otherwise. So until you hear, and we encourage you to obviously check in with Valleynewslive, our VNL News app, for all of the latest on when that curfew will be lifted. But as of right now, you, your loved ones, your friends, you should be home right now to help assist in maintaining some order in this ever-changing situation.
You talked about a time schedule, and I think we remember seeing that. We put it up on our Valleynewslive news app. Chief Dave Todd from the Fargo Police Department put something out indicating where things had gone. He had talked about the protesting, the marching that took place throughout the day, saying that despite some inconveniences, everything went rather smoothly. Officers allowed folks to maybe even block traffic as they made their way, and it was a long, long walk for a lot of these folks. But that went almost without any catches. And so it wasn't until after 6 o'clock that things really got bad, and that's where we've been going for the last 4.5 hours.
And from there, we've heard from Chief Todd releasing a statement on Facebook, on social media, asking people, begging people to go home. We heard from Mayor Jonathan Judd in Moorhead, begging people to go home, acknowledging that you had the opportunity to peacefully protest, to share your voice. He participated in this march along with Mayor Mahoney of Fargo, the two of them there joining with protesters to celebrate their First Amendment right to protest, and now hearing from those people some time ago, begging, pleading for people to go home to restore the order in this situation. And here we are just after 10:30 now, with obviously still a strong police presence downtown.
All right. Let's catch our breath. We're going to break away just for a moment. Our live coverage of what's happening in downtown Fargo will continue right here on Valley News Live. Stay with us. All right, welcome back to our special report coverage of what's going on in downtown Fargo. Andrea Larson joining us now. Kudos to Beth Houle for a great job for many hours of coverage during this day. She's taken a little bit of a break. And yeah, and let's hope that things are taking a break maybe in downtown Fargo.
No kidding, because people, I know firsthand, people who live near the downtown area are getting worried. They're calling their family members, their kids out to come home and make sure that they're safe and they know where they're at, because who knows where it could go.
Well, we've had developments going on throughout the day. It started really getting heated in the downtown area at about 6 o'clock, and it became a standoff of sorts from about First Avenue through Broadway, and that stayed that way as there was some looting, there was some vandalism that went on, and now things have started to maybe slowly start to subside a bit. Law enforcement making their way, trying to get things dispersed. The mayor, who we're trying to get a hold of and maybe address us here in just a few minutes, bringing out a state of emergency and a curfew. Started at 10 o'clock, and I know that there's some communication going on with law enforcement downtown, maybe on loudspeakers, and maybe letting some of the folks that may not know that there's a curfew, so that...
We're getting word the curfew is just for the downtown area.
Right, so they're maybe getting that word out so that some of those folks who maybe were just down there taking it in, maybe checking things out, are now getting the word and saying, hey, we better get home.
I know when I was on my way in, there was a surprising number of cars headed in that direction to see what's going on, to see, I don't know if they were going there to help or just observe, but as we mentioned, police and the mayor are saying, get out of the area, get out of downtown, go home, watch from TV if you need to.
And speaking of giving you an idea what's going on through TV, our crews are repositioning themselves right now. Stay with us. They're trying to stay safe. There's been a lot of tear gas. There's been a lot of opportunity for things to be thrown. They've done a great job of staying safe so far, and that's exactly what we're kind of doing, is maybe redeploying our forces, if you will, in hopes of trying to get you some more coverage from downtown Fargo.
You know, is it okay to let them know that even our crew sent some milk downtown to help the crews that were down there that got in the way of the tear gas? Is that correct? So you already talked about that?
Well, it's okay.
I mean, might as well, right? Let them know. Joshua Pagero was searching for our crews to help them out and find out where they're at, because it was a volatile situation down there and still is in spots.
It is, and they seem to have pushed things. The most, I guess, the worst areas that we can say is in the area of Vinyl Taco, JL Beers, the Hodo, all along that First Avenue, Broadway area. That's where a lot of the trouble has been. As we said, the authorities are trying to maybe maneuver, kind of shift, and get these remaining, I think it's about maybe a dozen, maybe 18 at the most, of these more volatile protesters, rioters, if you will, in hopes of maybe trying to get them to just walk away from this before they have to take even further action as a result of the curfew.
And hearing a lot of people say, why did it come to this? Why did it have to come to this? There was a peaceful march earlier this afternoon. We are getting word now that Alexandra Kay is ready to go live for us. Not exactly sure where she's at, but Alexandra, you let us know. Fill us in. Where are you at?
Andrea, Mike, right now I am on the corner of 2nd Avenue North and 4th Street North, right across from the Fargo Civic Center, right next to the old police department. And although it's a little bit quieter here right now, we're in a little bit of a safer location, there's still havoc going on. I want to take you over here and show you what we just witnessed. These rocks right here were picked up by young rioters and thrown at all of these police cars that you can see here. There has been damage done to the windshields, to the hoods. You can see just a clear hole through this back windshield here. Now they came and they threw some of these rocks. They got into a car, and about 5 minutes later they came back around the back side of these police cars, again grabbing handfuls of rocks and just throwing them at these police cars that have just been parked here. You can see the damage that they have created. And I want to remind you that it looks a little bit quieter here. It is a little bit safer, but there's still, people are still aggravated, still agitated. They're driving down the street now, yelling at each other and at us, still very, very angry, and they seem to have dispersed potentially from that downtown Fargo area that we were at before. We haven't been there for a little bit of time. However, there's still a very high presence of these rioters here on these streets. I think perhaps they are just making loops, or like Bailey Hurley was saying earlier, they would retreat for a little bit of time and then come right back. And if they're not rioting in the downtown area, then they're going to find these cop cars here that have been parked and throw rocks at them. I'm just seeing a flashlight come behind us. So again, it's still very, very active here. There's still quite a bit of rioters going on, even in this quieter location here across the street from the Fargo Civic Center. Andrea?
Is this, or did you come upon it in the aftermath? And if so, can you give us an idea of if you saw anyone, who were they? Did they look like some of the protesters that we've seen earlier today, or unfortunately maybe some kids from our area?
That's a very good question, Mike. And again, this is something that we've been coming back to quite a lot. And these are not the protesters. I was there this morning from 9:30 in the morning, from when that peaceful march started at Island Park. I still remember many, many of the people, of the faces, of the energy and the atmosphere that I felt there. And this is nothing like that. The folks that I just saw here was a group of people, about 5 of them. They looked like young riders. And as you can see, there seems to be police right now here looking at the damage done. You can see he's looking directly through that windshield because that rock came right through. I think there's about 4 police cars parked here, and they have all been hit with rocks. The people that were here, they just picked up these rocks off the side of this building. They were dressed, had masks on, and a lot of them were holding skateboards, things of that nature. Again, nothing like what I saw earlier today at the peaceful protest. Now it seems like they're also kind of hovering around this area. Like I said, they were here at this location. Disperse got in the car. About 5 minutes later, they came up from behind these police cars. So it seems like they're hovering, still looking for things to do, for ways to kind of wreak havoc still.
Is that officer anywhere close to you? Do you know if they have security cameras there? I would imagine that maybe
security
that particular parking lot would have security cameras so that whoever did this may find themselves in trouble with the law later. Maybe the individual has gone back.
Yes, so as I'm looking around now, there are security cameras on this building across the parking lot from where these cars are. And I'm trying to take a look, but of course, a collection of police cars, there's 4 of them in a row. Surely they have some sort of, there are cameras that I can see, so surely we'll be able to catch at least those riders off the street that then piled into that car.
Sasha,
I'd be interested to see all the security footage we're going to be seeing from tonight.
I need to interrupt Sasha. We've got Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney, so let's go live to him.
Hi, how are you today?
Mayor, can you tell us your feelings right now?
Very disappointed. We had peaceful demonstration this afternoon. I thought people did well in that. We got a lot of information back and forth. People were able to express themselves. And then tonight we had people who were doing violent demonstrations and destruction. Not very happy with it at all.
Mayor, do you feel like the downtown situation is under control now at this point in the evening?
Yeah, we do have it under control. We moved it off the main areas and moving down further to the west, or excuse me, to the east. And the crowd is dissipating a bit. We're continuing to work our way up and down Broadway and have control. A lot of the areas we have a lot of apartments downtown, and I want those people to feel safe. So we're clearing that up, and we'll continue to patrol and clear this all clean. We also are going to have the National Guard come in. We have 200 people coming in to help us out as well to have security within the streets. And we also have our fire department fully alerted. So far, we have no fires downtown. We do have 2 banks that were broken into. So,
Mayor, Governor Walz talked about this during his press conference earlier today about 80% of the folks that were rioting in Minneapolis were from out of town, out of state. What is the intel within the police and through your office with regard to who may be behind what's happened tonight in downtown Fargo?
We feel very strong. We almost will have the same percentage. I can't tell you percentage yet because we haven't sorted all that out. But the people that organized the march this morning now are coming downtown tomorrow morning to clean it all up. They feel horrible what happened. And I think they just lost control because this other group came in. The group we're seeing now, they're not people that are from our local area, and there's a more violent tendency in that. So when they're able to break into jail beers and to Taco, Vinyl Taco, I mean, it's obvious there was, let's pillage and do some other stuff here. That's not part of a peaceful demonstration.
Mayor, can you tell us, in your talkings with police, is there any worry that once you've moved the protesters off of Broadway or anywhere in the downtown area, that they'll disperse into the neighborhoods and start?
No, they won't go into the neighborhoods because there's no benefit there. You really want to have for their what they'd like is video moments or iPhone moments or some type of moment in which one of our police officers does something that they don't really want to do. So an attempt to get some kind of national publicity. And basically in our downtown, once you move off the main streets, it's pretty hard to demonstrate. So we will see, even today what happened, they were seeking out confrontation with our police force. So we saw that over and over. They went to West Fargo Police Station, they went to the City of Fargo Police Station. They look for areas where they could have a confrontation. When my local people were involved, they toned it down and moved on. They got their messages that they wanted to give to us and moved on. This stuff we're seeing tonight, they're not interested in that. They're just interested in having something good for video. Let's have a confrontation, and we're going to embarrass your city.
Mayor, how long are you going to wait before the police go in and arrest these guys?
We're ready to arrest them. We are arresting some as we go along here, but we've tried to allow the freedom of protest. But as people begin to, to loot and rob, they're obviously going to be arrested. And we have made some arrests already, and many of the people that are doing the things they shouldn't be doing. And I want people downtown to know they'll be safe. We will make it safe, and we're going to try to clean this up all through the night, and we'll continue to clean it up every day.
Mayor, when does your curfew end?
When things are under control. As we've seen in the city, sometimes people do that every night, and we're not hoping for that at all, of course. But we just wanted it tonight because I need people to just get off the streets so the police can get around and do what they have to do. I would hope that we could get this cleaned up tomorrow and get things back to normal on Monday or Tuesday. Speaking
of tomorrow, Mayor, is there a concern that the riders will be back again tomorrow night like they've done in the cities night after night?
Well, in cities, they had some stuff they could continue to do. We're hoping that we can control them and get it to a little bit more control. So our goal here is to get our city back as quickly as we can.
All right.
Your thoughts, Mayor, your feelings right now? I mean, it's a day that started out with such a large voice in downtown Fargo, and now we end up with a large mess in downtown Fargo.
Well, it leaves you with sadness because you love your city and you love your people, and you just feel really sad when somebody hurts them or harms them. And this is kind of one of those things. We've always been a beautiful, wonderful city, beautiful people, and you just feel sad inside that we had to suffer this.
Do you feel, Mayor, that you had enough force downtown that you, could have called in extra forces to help control everything?
Well, no, it kept escalating. So it started at one level, and then it got bigger and bigger, and we're bringing in a lot of reinforcement. All across the state, people volunteered to help us, so I don't fault that. I fault this group just got more and more violent. It started with water bottles, it started to turn into bricks, and started to turn into other things. So, yeah, you're prepared, but we normally don't do tear gas in Fargo, you know that. So we're just not a community that has a lot of violent demonstrations. But Chief Todd's been doing an excellent job, and his forces are doing great. So I can't fault anybody for anything that's been done.
Before we let you go, anybody hurt as far as police or authorities after what's gone on?
Oh, I don't think any police or authorities are. We heard that there was one person injured that might be a protest person that had shot somebody, but we don't have the full details on that yet. So we'll do a press conference in the morning and tell everybody what's going on.
Okay, and Mayor, are you available a little bit later in the evening if we need to get a hold of you?
Sure.
All right. Okay.
I'll be up.
Fargo Mayor Tim Mahoney, thanks so much. Thanks for chatting with us.
We appreciate it. All right, sounds like we've got Sasha, Alexandra, on the phone right now, or even live. Sasha, can you hear us? And tell us where you're at, please.
Yes, Andrea here. Can you hear me, guys?
We can.
Yes, Andrea, so I'm back here on 1st Avenue North and 4th Street North, just a little bit of a ways down, a block of the ways down from that old police station where we were just checked in with you earlier. I want you to take a look at what's going on behind me. As you can see, that police line is continuing to come closer and closer and closer. However, there are still people here. I think from last time that we checked in with you, they really started to let off these flash bombs and everything else, which kind of scared the public away. It definitely did. However, people are creeping back. So it's this cat and mouse where you're going to push them back a little bit, they get spooked, yet they come on back. The atmosphere here that I'm seeing, people are playing music in their cars. They seem to be kind of enjoying this. And I did just smell a strong scent of spray paint. And I'm not going to show you what I'm seeing on the walls, but there is a lot of profanity being spray painted as we speak on the walls. Let me just take a look. You can hear there's people are honking in their cars. Like I said earlier, people have moved off the streets, but it seems like they got right into their vehicles and they're driving up and down these streets here. And we just want to give you some information here that we learned from another protester. Excuse me while I just gather my information here. We just learned from another protester that someone was shot maybe in the foot and was taken away by another protester. The hospitals have been alerted. This is from the Fargo Police Department. One more time, I'm going to tell you that they learned, the Fargo Police Department just informed us that they learned somebody was shot potentially in the foot, a protester, and was taken away by another protester. All hospitals have been alerted.
All right, I think the mayor
So this is
referenced
here
that in
outside the
conversation.
Alaris.
Okay, thank you so much, Alexandra. And I can tell you this, it definitely looks like things are easing up. The numbers have started to thin out. That's a good sign. And as the mayor indicated, they're going to be taking care of maybe some of those last protesters, rioters, if you will, and they could wind up in the Cass County Jail tonight.
Sasha, it even looked like from your video that somebody was standing behind you with what appeared to be possibly a spray can, something. Could that be what you were indicating about?
Andrea,
There you go. Go ahead and move because
Andrea, I absolutely would not doubt it here. Yeah, we're just going to go ahead and go to a little bit of a safer location. You can see that people here are riled up and they are not afraid, or they're pretty eager to get their faces on camera to kind of continue to push their message forward. Regarding that spray paint can, we have seen here these cans from the tear gas laying on the ground here. People are kicking them, kind of picking them up, playing with them of sorts. And then, of course, like I mentioned before, we've had a lot of that spray paint come out, and I would not be surprised. What I'm seeing a lot of is jugs of milk, spray paint, and again, just people seem to be very eager to be out here. But for now, I'm going to throw it back to you guys.
Okay, Alexandra Kay from downtown Fargo, thank you so much. Stay safe. Let's give you a little bit of a look as to what this scene looked like earlier this evening with regard to downtown in the area. This would be, I would imagine, right around 8 o'clock. That's when the first tear gas was shot off by Fargo police. This is right in that area of around the Vinyl Taco and also JL Beers. A little later on, we saw looters as they went inside those two businesses and others. The mayor mentioning a couple of banks and breaking in there, taking some things. So, a hectic scene earlier this evening.
Have we seen a lot of businesses that are boarded up at all? I know relatives and friends in the Twin Cities had a little bit of time to board up, and some even, friends of mine came back the next day and tried to board up again, but were stopped by protesters. So there was some fear, but I don't know that we had enough warning to even, put any boards up or protect our businesses a little bit.
I guess maybe some of the folks may have taken a more optimistic approach, hoping that today's events would have played out like they did right through 6 o'clock.
Exactly.
Where there was no problem. And as the mayor indicated, as we've seen throughout our coverage this evening, there are others, even the folks that we organized the Black Lives Matter group. They indicated that these were folks that weren't a part of their organization. They did not condone what was to take place, and this all unfolded after the 6 o'clock hour, developing into the tear gas situation, more tear gas, more flash bombs, and the lines of authorities hoping to make their move, pushing the rioters back. And you can see the line there, and yeah, it's been wild.
Certainly a show of force, as the mayor mentioned. You know, a lot of police officers, sheriff's deputies, all coming out to make sure that they try to keep downtown Fargo safe and the surrounding area.
And I guess if we're going to look at this, and it is sad to see those buildings being damaged. At least we haven't had the really bad damage of the fires that have taken place in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
The injuries kept to maybe some tearful eyes and red eyes, and maybe this one individual who was shot in the foot. But overall, yeah, I guess we can thank our stars at this point and hope that things are winding down, that the last of the protesters, the last of the rioters are in fact either taken into custody or deciding that it's best to just get in your car and go home.
Yep, that would be the best scenario, wouldn't it?
Hopeful.
Yep. All right, do we have any? All right, we're going to take a break, come back and see where the rest of our crews are. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back, everyone, to coverage of the riots in downtown Fargo. It sounds like we've got Valley News Team's Bailey Hurley standing by to let us know what's going on where she is in downtown Fargo. Oh, I'm getting word she's not ready yet?
No. While we're waiting, let me just mention this. We have been notified that there is a downtown Fargo cleanup, and it's scheduled to start at 10 a.m. It's been posted. And there are 3,500 people that have expressed they are either going or interested in that. So that's downtown Fargo cleanup, 10 a.m. tomorrow. So if you want to get up and maybe help out, maybe try to erase as much as we possibly can of this mess. It sounds like a lot of people are interested, and maybe you could be one of them as well.
More information on Facebook, right?
Yes.
That's a Facebook post.
Yep.
And we did see you know, a little bit of, you know, the damage to the police cars. Might not be able to fix that, but all of the graffiti, the spray painting on the walls of downtown Fargo, lots of that we've seen in the background. The litter, are you getting word of anything else?
I'm getting word that maybe our Bailey Hurley may have been tear gassed, so we may have to fill while she tries to get regrouped a little bit. They've been indicating and facing this sort of challenge throughout the evening as they've been right on the front lines, some wearing masks when they could, making their way forward as far as they could, and then backtracking. And at this point, as we can see with our camera, that yeah, they're trying to get redeployed, as I've used that term, an old Army term, as you try to move around and get to a better position to battle it out. And now we're getting word from our news director that maybe they're just being told to get out completely at this point.
Yes.
The indications are that things are starting to get easier downtown. I think the mayor talked about it. You asked him the question about control. He says he thought things were under control there.
Wouldn't need to call any more officers in to help control, but if they're throwing out tear gas again, well, you know, they might be in a tough situation. We'd like to know where Bailey is in downtown Fargo, and a little bit more exact location, if we're able to get that, so we can relay that to everybody. Okay, we have a soundbite. We talked to the leader of Black Lives Matter earlier tonight.
Yeah, the gentleman who organized today's march, and he talked with Bailey Hurley a little bit about his reaction to what took place, how everything folded from about 6 o'clock on. So let's roll that.
I can tell you for sure what's going on right now. I have no idea. This morning, we came in good faith as Black Lives Matter protesters, and we peacefully organized our protest this morning. The police were with us. We got the full support and cooperation of the police to organize our protest. The Black Lives Matter protest this morning ended at 6 o'clock p.m. So what's going on right now? No, that's not us. 95% of people I've seen here, they don't belong to Black Lives Matter.
Very clear distinction there. Two separate groups of, we've got the peaceful protesters, we've got the rioters, which we've seen around the country making their way into big cities around the country where there are marches going on to...
We saw it at the pipeline protests south of Mandan. That's a clear indication. Governor Walz indicated that he thought that there were outsiders that came in, a large majority of outsiders that came into the Minneapolis area, and in this particular case, it looks like they stirred it up here as well.
Yeah, we were getting word even a couple days ago that they might move in. So it sounds like we've got Bailey Hurley live for us now.
Alexander K.
Oh, so Alexander K. Sorry about that. Alexander, what have you got for us?
Mike, hi. Thank you for checking in with us again. We are now one block east of kind of where all that action started. This is Broadway and NP. There was just some tear gas that was let off, and that tear gas was kind of kicked in our direction, or in the general direction of all these people here. And again, that tear gas, it burns in your eyes, it burns in your throat. It makes it very difficult just to even talk or breathe. And I want you to take a look at what I'm seeing here behind me. As you can see, again, people are still scattered around, kind of walking and getting in their cars and circling. There's still folks walking through these parking lots and instigating the police. They're chanting, "We can't breathe." And that cat and mouse game continues, where they back out a little bit and then they come back in. We've seen more fireworks deployed. The fireworks shot off from the ground, and it was just so scary to see a firework go off from the ground. You can only imagine where all of that debris is going to land. Yeah. It's getting a little bit quieter here, at least on the street that we are now. However, people are still walking around and, like I mentioned, getting in their cars and making those circles and those loops.
Alexandra,
still kicking the tear gas, still spray painting the walls.
Okay.
For now, I'm just going to throw it back to you all.
Okay, sounds good. We know that she had a problem with hearing us. We do want to let you know that Governor Doug Burgum has now activated the National Guard for the state. That is for Fargo, West Fargo, and Cass County. And we're getting word of another thing, too.
Yeah, it's not what I want to tell you about, but we're getting word on Facebook from a Facebook message that maybe the rioters are moving to the mall now. And that may be why we had talked with the mayor earlier. You had asked him that maybe things were controlled. They may be controlled downtown, but we might not see the last of trouble in our community. And as a result of that, Governor Doug Burgum has now activated some of the North Dakota National Guard soldiers, and that is for you indicated Fargo, West Fargo, and Cass County, and maybe that is to maybe even give, I don't want to read too much into this, whether we have more problems, but maybe it's just to give law enforcement an opportunity to rest, since they've spent actually the whole day taking care of all of the developments of the day. Maybe that's an opportunity to maybe backstop and help out. Let's hope that's what it is, and we don't have more problems coming down the road.
All right. Do we know if Alexandra has anything else that she wanted to... Okay, all right, we're getting word that she is done.
Okay, we're going to wrap up our coverage for now. We are going to send our reporters over to that mall area to check it. If there is trouble, we will certainly break in, get you updated. Stay tuned to Valleynewslive.com, the VNL app, and also stick around here. We will bring you the very latest of what's going on for sure.
Yeah, we will. Regular programming right now, but stay tuned. Be safe, everyone.